Okay, we're live. What's up? Hello. Hello. Hellerr. Hello. I'm going to load up my laptop. Stand by, please. Just want to make sure our auction and buy it now sections are loaded up. Looks good. What's going on? So much to do. I got quite a few commissions. Got a large 11 by 17, which I won't do here. Um, got a purchase a couple days ago. I don't get any notices either by email or text when something in my Whatnot store sells. So I recently made a sale on a piece that's actually already gone. So I'm going to redo or make a similar or better version of the item that was purchased. And then I've got 5 sketch cards to do. And then we've got Absolute Batman, which I started last week, and a Wolverine, both in process. This is the pencil version. These pencils are done, and I moved on to inks. So we'll work on those today. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I hope you all had a great weekend. I can't believe it's Wednesday already. Again, Miss Mayhem in the house. Good afternoon, Miss Mayhem. Ainge in the house. Saying hello to Miss Mayhem. VIPs in the house, folks. Give them a wave. A couple days ago, I was putting together some pieces for March, the March sketch cover madness round. We had quite a few pieces for requested by Ainge. We had a few pieces from Miss Mayhem. They're going to show up in the March sketch cover madness. I've got a black and white round of 32 pieces. I've got a color round of 32 pieces. I had to scrap quite a few, so I did more than 64 commissions last year. Crazy. And those are just the sketch cover commissions. They're not the remarks and things like that. So I put together 8 rounds of black and white. Excuse me. I put together 8 rounds of color, and we're going to have sketch cover madness. So stay tuned in March for that. I think maybe Wednesdays will be black and white and Thursdays will be color. I'm not sure. I haven't figured that out yet. I think that's what I did last year. That's awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think if you got a piece done on the stream and then you see it in the contest, I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. Or if my piece were in there, I'd be charged up and I'd be rooting for it. So I don't know. Excuse me. um. So yeah, I made a sale today, a couple days ago, and Whatnot didn't alert me. So I just noticed it today when I was checking on my finances. I noticed there's a person with the handle PLux13 who ordered a Spidey jam piece, but that particular jam piece is sold, and it had additional pieces, additional figures head sketches, remarks, whatever you call them, added. I guess I forgot to take it out of the bin, so I'm gonna do another one. I hope they don't mind. It'll be much the same, but hopefully better. So what did you guys do this weekend? Anything special? I don't think we did anything. I'm trying to even remember what we watched. Very often I'll I'll go to the library on a Friday or a Thursday and grab a whole bunch of videos. It's like old Blockbuster video days, but now it's a library. And instead of getting charged $6 a day for being late, there's no charge. You get free videos. It's pretty cool. So I get plenty of my graphic novel reading done at libraries also. When I get some free time and I stop by the library and I've got an hour to spare, which is rare, but I do occasionally, kind of happens where there's a little opening in the schedule. I'll stop by the library and I'll grab some of the Peanuts comic strip reprints that Fantagraphics has done recently. They're awesome, well done, well made. Oh, did you hear that? That's pretty hardcore, isn't it? That's the ice melting inside the storm drains. Storm drains? Gutters. Just worked. Yes, a lot of us work on the weekends, don't we? I know what that's like. It's hard to believe how time is going by so fast. I know most people gauge the first day of spring as sometime in March, but for me, the first day of spring is the day after Super Bowl Sunday. And my brain just switches over, and I'm like, all right, from now on, the days are clearly getting longer, and it's clearly getting warmer. So I'm a little ahead of schedule with my spring. So I'm starting to think about exercising and going out and exercising, getting rid of this gut that I've got. We have a gym at our apartment complex. It's not great, but it's free. I haven't used it in the last 5+ years mainly because of COVID. But even before COVID, I was one of those guys that was kind of grossed out by strangers sweating all over machinery and stuff like that. And so if I went to a gym, I would always wipe down the bench or whatever. And I would always use a towel underneath me. Just, I don't know. Does that make me a germaphobe? I don't know. But I was more of a grossophobe. It's kind of gross. You get some of these guys at gyms that you don't know who they are or where they've been. And some of them are hairy and gross and they stink. And some of them are just strange looking. At least those are the gyms. The gyms that I've been to have those kind of characters. Basketball ball games with my son. Drove some friends to JFK for their flight. Ooh, are they that good that they're traveling to go to games and stuff? I don't know much about basketball, but Jabin's in high school, isn't he? Isn't he in some kind of league or something? And what makes them travel? I got to know these things. Is anybody simulcasting with DA Comics? I wonder what they're selling today. Maybe they're not on today. He's always on. Jeff is always on Wednesdays. I'm going to be at a show called the Northeast Comic Con. And it's in Boxborough, Mass. Somebody corrected me last week. I guess it's in Boxborough, Mass. Didn't I say Boxborough, Mass? I know it's in Boxborough, Mass. So if I misinformed you, sorry about that. It's in Boxborough, Massachusetts. And it's a fun, cozy little show. It's a great show to kind of show up and hang out with artists and stuff like that. And I was there last November. Hard to believe it's been 3 months since we were at the Boxborough show. So disappointed. Or not disappointed, but so amazed at how time flies fast. So fast. So my friend Rick Parker, who's a writer and an artist, cartoonist, been working in comics since at least 1977 when he started at Marvel. He gave me one of his graphic novels. It's kind of like an autobiography of his time in the army. He was drafted in the 1960s, during the height of the Vietnam War. And so this graphic novel is basically about his time in the U.S. Army. And it was very well done. I'm very impressed by it. I have a lot of technical questions, like how he did certain things and stuff, but the story itself was great. Recommended if you guys are into autobiographical stuff, or autobiographical comics, or just comics in general. It's good stuff. So Rick is going to be at the Northeast Comic Con next month as well. So we'll get to catch up. That's usually how I catch up with my friends, I'm sorry to say, is at conventions. I guess I'm not a very social guy. I can count on one hand the people that I will think of to give a phone call to touch base with. That's not very, now that I say it, that's very sad, isn't it? Whatever. I talk to Ange and Miss Mayhem more often than a lot of my friends. They were just family friends that were flying out of country, and we decided to take them to the airport. It can get expensive. We help each other. Yeah, totally. Very pricey a ride to the airport, especially in New York, but even here, a drive. I usually fly out very early in the mornings, so it's um, an Uber ride or a limo reserved car can cost up to $100 where I am. So I imagine what it could cost in the New Jersey, New York City area. It must be very pricey. When it comes to driving long distance like that, save each other some money. I totally agree. You can never get webs wrong, so they're kind of fun. Fun to draw. Failure is impossible. There's only level of detail that you can improve on. You want to draw each strand of webbing and follow it all the way through. Go ahead. If you want to just draw random squiggles, that works as well. I noticed Jerry Robson's stream was on when I first started the stream, and someone here in the chat mentioned that he's shirtless, and I noticed the last stream I watched of his, he was shirtless. I didn't realize that. So go to the shirtless comics retailer here and whatnot and get yourself some deals. Jerry Robson, his name is. Daytona in the house, VIP. Mental Metal Master. Working on a jam piece today. Spider-Man Jammy. I'm wondering if I should tune into DA. Maybe I liked what I did last week. I found a cool podcast that it was fun to make commentary on. Let's see if I can do that again. I would like these streams to be available on YouTube, so I'm trying to avoid playing unlicensed music for a while. See how that goes. Oh, you can watch Rob Liefeld's podcast. I could do that. Is that on YouTube? Let me see. I also have a podcast app. We can do the audio. And let's make some let's listen in and do some commentary. Observations, right? I want listen to it once in a while. Maybe there's an interview he's done. Does he do an interview with anybody? Trek must save itself, says Observations. With the left capturing Star Trek. Is this getting political? The left captured Star Trek? Anybody ever watched Star Trek? Anybody ever watch a single episode of Star Trek? Okay, let's move away from that one. It seems very political and unwise. Ooh, here's a Whilst Portacio chat. Maybe we'll try that. What else? The 500 show. We made it to 500 episodes. How Avengers Doomsday will bring back the MCU's formula for success. Any of these sound interesting to you guys? I don't know. Observations. What's the Burnett Network? Am I looking at the wrong? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong Rob, I think. Oh, okay. Here we go. Rob Liefeld Show, pros and cons. The Rob Liefeld Show. Jim Valentino chat. Sabi Sema, and that's a great. Let's watch that one.
Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring 5 decades experience in the world of comic books and entertainment.
I like how he says
comic
books.
bystander.
Comic books. I say comic
By,
books.
I am a
He says
full-blown
comic books.
participant, having contributed lasting, memorable works to the world of comic books that have informed the business and the art of this brilliant medium. If it's happening in streaming, in movies, in comic books, in games, we are talking about it, we're discussing it right here.
We got to get Joe to do a podcast. Isn't this a podcast?
Hey and welcome to another episode of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. Wherever you are listening to us from, whatever platform you use, welcome. Thank you for listening. We are on Apple and Spotify. We have been on YouTube for about 6 months. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on all the podcast platforms, and it is a great pleasure to join you again. I'm telling you, these interactions, these episodes, reading your guys' feedback, it definitely enriches my soul, my comic book spirit, my comic book spirit animal. I just love you guys. I love sharing with you guys. When it's time to do this show, when it's time to gather kind of the intel, the facts, the figures, and share with you guys, it gets me amped. And here we are today. Now, today's episode is a bit of what you would call on the downer side of things, but we're here to lift up and to celebrate a great talent, an immense talent in the comic book industry that passed, Mr. Sal Buscema. And we are going to do a pretty interesting, I think, look back. Hopefully, I've got some items.
Raise your hand in the chat if you know who Sal Buscema is. And if you don't, don't walk to your nearest library and grab some of his work. He's a master. I got to meet Sal once. For me, he's probably in my top 10, especially as a child. He's probably top five favorite comic book artist. When I was a child, he was working on a series called Captain America with when the Falcon was his partner. So the series was called Captain America and the Falcon. So there's my favorite Sal stuff is right in that wheelhouse. Cap, let's see, Cap, 150, Cap, 150 to 181 when they Nova, not no, Nova, Nomad, where Cap quit being Cap because of the Watergate scandal. He was disgusted by the United States government hierarchy's behavior, and so he quit being Captain America. He became a nomad, so a man without a country, essentially. And before that, he was Steve Rogers was a police officer in Harlem, and his partner, the Falcon, was running around. And Falk had a deep inferiority complex around Cap. It's just he's just a tough guy to live up to. You know the standards that Steve Rogers, Captain America, set. It's just very difficult for the average Joe superhero to compete with. I think Hawkeye, for me, my version of Hawkeye is a similar issue. He's got a similar problem. Hawkeye's got a chip on his shoulder, and Cap, just by his honorable, uh, valiant, heroic essence, challenges some of these less secure superheroes. And so I'm reading Captain America when the Falcon is his partner and going through that kind of stuff. And let's see, the Red Skull was a villain for a while. And then there was a storyline where for some reason they tried to explain away the 1950s Captain America. Silver Age Marvel Universe, Captain America was frozen at the very end of World War II, right? He was uh, he was on a final mission with Bucky, some kind of drone. They were trying to defuse some kind of drone headed for, I don't know, a key military site or something like that. I forget the location. But Cap, Steve Rogers, was thrown from the drone into the North Atlantic Ocean, and Bucky was presumed dead in the explosion of this particular drone. And that was essentially the end of the Second World War. Cap was presumed dead, Bucky was presumed dead, and little did we know that somehow, maybe it's the nature of Steve Rogers, the super soldier serum, or whatever it was, somehow uh, Steve Rogers did not die, but was frozen in the icy waters of the North Atlantic into a giant block of ice and entered a state of suspended animation. And he wasn't revived until essentially modern times, which in the Silver Age was the 60s. So, but what Stan and various creators that be at the time either forgot or ignored was that in the 1950s, Captain America comics continued to be published. They changed the title to Captain America's Weird Tales or stuff like that. But there was a 1950s Captain America published by Marvel / Atlas Comics. So And some of the art, I have some of the reprints. Some of the art is by John Romita Sr., who's one of my favorite top 5 artists of all time. Classic Spider-Man artist, but also classic Captain America artist. And so Sal Buscema, as a matter of fact, replaced John Romita Sr. on Captain America. And for me, it stayed just as good. I love Romita Sr. He's one of my absolute favorites. But when Sal Buscema came on Captain America, it was just as good. The stories were great, and the art was fantastic. Uh, Sal was one of my favorite. He's still one of my favorite action artists to show. You know, to really give an impact, to really display, physical violence in graphic art form. He was a master at that. So you'd see like teeth flying. There'd be a guy, right? Here's the panel. Here's Cap or somebody smacking some guy, and the guy would be in the foreground. I mean, just flying right at your face. And he had this huge mouth screaming. Can you see that okay? And invariably, you'd see a tooth, one or two teeth flying. And with Sal, you'd also see with screaming faces, he would have this like little string. Very often, he would have this little string of saliva coming off the guy's mouth. So he's fantastic at kinetic energy, superhero violence. He's really great at drawing that. So Cap was my favorite, but he also did 100 issues maybe of the Hulk, Incredible Hulk. He did a noteworthy run on the Defenders. Where did he start on Defenders? I think he started issue 1. Yeah, number 1 to somewhere in the 30s, maybe even 40s. At least 30 issues of the Defenders. Marvel 2-in-1, loved him on Marvel 2-in-1 drawing The Thing. I loved his version of The Thing. How many issues of that did he do? At least the first 5 issues, 1 through 5. Those are my favorites. It's a storyline with the Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America and The Thing. I think it's issue 4 and 5 of Marvel 2-in-1. Great shit. What else? Of course, he had a very long run on Spectacular Spider-Man. He started the series off in 1976. I think the first issue came out of Spectacular. Some of my favorite issues of Marvel Team Up are by Sal. Issues 20 to 22 are some of my favorite comics ever made. I'm trying to think of the back of my brain is trying to figure out when he stopped his first run on Spectacular. I don't remember. And then he came back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. He must have done 100 issues of Spectacular during the boom times. And the boom times are when I'm coming into the industry. So the weird thing that happened to me is when I started as a professional penciler in comics, I just stopped collecting and reading comics. It's weird. I just didn't have time. That's really the truth of it. Is I did not have time to read and collect comics anymore because I was working 99% of the time. But yeah, Sal rules. That's that's what I'm saying is that Sal is great. Sal rules. Don't use markers on this. Only use Sharpies. The big debate last week: who sells comics, artists or writer? Not really the new stuff. Star Trek died when they went into the 31st century. Only the original series, the original, we're talking about Star Trek now. Yeah, for me, the original series is above and beyond. It's my favorite TV of all time. Um, the subsequent series, Next Generation, I liked very much. And as they went along, I liked them less and less until finally, when what's the show with Seven of Nine? Is it called? It's not Discovery. Voyager. Voyager. I just couldn't watch, and so I abandoned Star Trek. Well, unofficially with Voyager. I tried to watch Enterprise. That was very, very slow. I know I had Enterprise on. I would rent the DVDs, and then I know I played it while I was working, but I couldn't tell you any episodes. I have my memory of Enterprise is that it got better as it went along. Like the last season was the best season, but I don't remember anything noteworthy except the Andorians were prominent, and I love the Andorians. Um, but I didn't like the storylines, I guess. I'm behind on the chat. Let's see what's going on here. I enjoy the insider aspect of these stories. My only experience with Sal was with Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, for me, Sal on Spec is kind of like his style got a little too. It wasn't it wasn't for me. Um, but but by the time he's on his second run on Spectacular Spider-Man in the '90s, he's already for me. He's already proven himself as one of the best. I got to meet Sal at a convention in the Netherlands. My friend Sitsa, he wasn't my friend at the time, but he invited me to a convention in the Netherlands, and that was really something. And so, huge convention, by the way. I don't remember it. I remember it being very well attended, and there were two American artists who were the highlights or the headliners of the show, and one was me, and the other one was Sal Buscema. And I'm not comparing myself with Sal Buscema. I'm just saying we were the two American artists at this particular convention, and Sal was over at his table, and he was doing a head sketch for every single fan who asked for one for free. And so I think the last time I remember talking to someone at the show who was waiting on a Sal sketch. I think he was like 120 something. So Sal is just belting out. He's just belting out head sketches for every single person who approached him at the show. He was that fast. Yeah. And so Sitsa knew that I was a huge fan of Sal's. And so he arranged for us to have breakfast together on the second day of the show. And I sat with him. I believe it was his wife who was also there. And we got to chat. And it's been so long now, I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I do remember him being just a sweetheart of a guy. Very low key, modest guy. And it was a great experience for me to meet one of my heroes. And on the rare occasion where I meet my hero, the guy's not a total asshole. He's a sweetie. Um, So rest in peace, Sal Buscema. Truly one of the greats. And if you guys don't know who Sal is, that's cool too. Raise your hands. Let me know in the chat if you've never seen Sal Buscema's art. I imagine Batman fans probably haven't seen a lot of Sal's art, although I do have an annual. It's actually in the bin if I think about it. Let me see. Hold on. Joe's collection. There it is. Joe's collection, Batman Detective Comics annual lot. No obligations, but let me see. Yeah, one of the annuals. Look at that. What a coincidence. One of the annuals, Batman Detective Comics annual number 10, illustrated by Sal Buscema and Klaus Janson. There it is. That may be the only time that Sal drew Batman for DC Comics. And Sal and Klaus, they're a classic matchup because Klaus inked a lot of Sal's Defenders run in the 70s. So that's kind of like getting the band back together, or Simon and Garfunkel getting back together for Batman Detective Comics Annual, which is in the bin. Okay, back to Rob.
Here that are not of kind of general audience stuff that you're just gonna discover in the wild. I've tried to curate Sal Buscema items, jobs, memorabilia, some memories, and track my own relationship with Sal as a fan.
Some of my favorite Sal stuff was very early in his career. He inked one of the best comics ever made. Excuse me. So I've got this shake that I made. Um, it's got protein powder in it, and it's got blueberries in it, and the seeds are getting caught in my throat, so I'm like coughing and stuff. So very early in Sal's career, he inks one of the best comic books ever made. I'll say it like Rob, comic books ever made. Silver Surfer number 4. He's the inker. He inks his brother John Buscema, who's another top 10. But he also starts doing covers for like king size annuals and for a lot of the reprints. Like Kirby leaves Marvel about the same time that Sal starts to come into his own. And so when Sal and John Buscema are starting to become the house style or the A-listers at Marvel because Kirby is elsewhere, they start giving Sal a whole bunch of covers on the reprints, I guess, to, I don't know, give Sal some work, A, or B, to make the reprints more appealing to a 70s audience. I'm not exactly sure why, but I love those covers. King size, let me see if I can find it. Avengers Annual, which is king size annual 5. I believe it's number 5. Nope. Number 6. Nope. Number 4. Okay, yeah, number 4. I was off by 1 and I went in the wrong direction. So here we go. I'll see if I can hold this up for you guys. Shit. Hold on. Stand by. You can't just get a large image on the web nowadays. Just give me a large image. Oh, Christ. Stand by. Stand by. Amazing. I can't find one. Okay, stand by. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it this way. Here we go. Screen grab. I'm gonna take my screen grab and go home. All right, then we blow this up so people can see it. There we go. This is a reprint, probably of early Avengers issue, assembled into an annual. Can you guys see this? This cover is 100% badass. This is a guy coming out of the gate, fresh, newbie, maybe a year in, and just crushing it. Look at this cover. Oh, worth the price for the cover alone, whatever that costs. That's actually been on my grail, on my loose grail list to get that king size special number 4, just for that cover. So that's Sal, man. Sal is just the best. I can't rave enough about Sal. Let's hear some more. Let's hear what Rob has to say about Sal.
To say that he was a titan of an age is an understatement. And so we're gonna get into that here real shortly. Again, hope you're doing well. Hope you are enjoying your comic book experience, your pop culture experience. One thing I wanted to comment on: we don't, we haven't had a whole lot to discover to discuss in terms of comic book pop culture media of late. I am tremendously
That's it with Sal.
anticipating Supergirl. I cannot wait for Supergirl to hit theaters. I just think everything about that appeals to me, speaks to what I really believe will give me maximum enjoyment in regards to a sci-fi action adventure featuring a character who I have always enjoyed in the comic books, and I think Millie Alcock is just a great choice. And is it Craig Gillespie, the director? All the trailers, all the promotions. I think even her last minute cameo in last summer's Superman movie, I just think is tonally on point. I'm very excited about it. Then this summer, Spider-Man is going to do huge for Sony. That is a Sony film. Marvel gets the producer credit on it, but it is a Sony film. Sony will be the one that is garnering the market share and 90% of the profits. It's really incredible to me. For those of you who are not aware, it was the shot heard around the world early 2000s. Maybe it was, in fact, the year 2000, when finally the judge settled the Spider-Man matter and said,
What happened to Sal?
All of these different
I
production
want to talk
companies
about
entities,
Sal, man.
had latched on to saying that they had the rights.
I want to talk about Sal.
Media. And a judge
Give
finally
a fuck
just ruled
about
that
the
it was
movies.
going back to Marvel. And my buddy at Marvel confirms that Sony was in the lobby of the courtroom after the ruling came down from the judge that says, I'm going to clear this mess up and just return all of the rights to Spider-Man. Context is everything here. I can see comments saying, oh my gosh, they sold it for nothing. Marvel is clawing their way out of a bankruptcy at this time. They've been in a bankruptcy for 3 years. They are trying to find their footing again and get their balance. And, the X-Men movie, the Fantastic Four movie, the Daredevil movie, the Ghost Rider movie.
Yeah, that whole story about Marvel bankruptcy in the 90s is a lovely example of vulture capitalism. And fuck Ike Perlman and everybody who tried to fuck Marvel in the 90s. Okay, next.
Those have all been optioned for basically, good option money in the 90s. I can speak to that and tell you what the top end of that is. Maybe a couple million was what great option money was going around for comic book material. The Sony, the rep has always said, I heard that weekend after it happened, and I heard it every year since. Sony was waiting for Marvel and said, we will give you $25 million right now for the rights to Spider-Man. $25 million upfront for the rights. Let me tell you something. Most of you guys today would jump at $25 million. I would jump at $25 million. $25 million is a whole lot of money.
Yes.
We can't let age dispute, I was reading on some settlements.
Careful, Rob will ban you. I didn't say anything against Rob yet. Daytona says, careful, Rob will ban you. You got banned. I know you got banned because you asked a basic question. I haven't watched the show with Jim
Valentino. Yeah, he's another piece of work.
Comic books. It was, in honesty, I had seen Aaron Brockovich, and I wanted to go back and research what those families got paid some 25 plus years ago. And in today's mindset, you go, oh man, $5 million to a family that was affected by, and had diseased family members because of the water that was in Hinckley. And you go, man, it's fine, but in 1999, 1998, $5 million settlement to your family to cover the costs and plan, for the rough times that both you've been through and you're going to go through. It was significant. That's significant money. Now,
oh my God, this guy.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oof.
Billions of dollars.
This guy needs to.
$25 million.
Okay, now I'm going to get banned.
Out of bankruptcy.
The
probably
fuck.
Optioned the X-Men for between $500,000 and $1 million to Fox. Okay, sweetheart deal. Marvel took it and they went down that road with Sony, and Sony has never looked back, and Marvel has never looked back. No matter how much Marvel would like those rights back, they're getting more and more every year. Remember that 70 billion, and I said it then. I'm going to say it now. It's 7 years ago that Disney bought Fox for 70 billion. They haven't posted a profit, and I'm not sure in my lifetime they'll get there. Every Avatar movie and a Deadpool Wolverine, you go, okay, so maybe they made let's say in the best case scenario, they made profits of 600 million, which they didn't, off each of those. So maybe they're at the 2 billion return, and you're like, but Rob, but Predators and no, none of that stuff is bringing back enough. They bought it to obtain it, and you got to look at the light. They're looking at 100 years of going forward, of exploiting that, integrating it. And it feels like it'll take that long to make any sort of profit on $70 billion. You paid out $70 billion. To get a profit, you would have to make $140 billion. Okay? So save your calculators, put them away. I've read where back then, when the sale went down with Spider-Man to Sony, they're like, well, Sony wants $8 billion for the Spider-Man family alone, and then $20 billion. And nowadays, I've heard those numbers just go up. Sony knows the value that they have between the Spider-Man movies, the Into the Spider-Verse, which does not have a Marvel component. Just like the Deadpool movies did not have a Marvel component. Marvel's name was on them, but they didn't produce Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2. They had no notes. They had no input. That was Fox executives. That was Tim Miller.
What happened to Salby Sama?
That was Ryan Reynolds. Marvel was not supplying notes. All they could do at the end of the day was say that was a pretty good movie. Or as I heard it, like, damn, they broke through with that Deadpool movie. Damn. It was Deadpool was a bit of a revelation, and that's going to be
Daytona says
he hasn't banned me.
Spider-Man
is a bear. I'm not poking. I'm trying to remember who in the stream got banned by Rob.
Quiver. And
was it it wasn't acid, was it? No. I forget who it was, but we got some people. I should create medals for people who got banned. I'm going to get a 3D printer or access to a 3D printer. I'm going to start creating medals. And my first medal is going to be the Joe Cosplay Award. And I'm going to hand it out at conventions for people who just do outstanding cosplay work, and they don't just buy a Spider-Man sweatshirt, or they don't just appear as a super popular character like Deadpool or something, but they do something which is truly unique in my experience, and that's why it's the Joe Award, because it's my experience. It's my award, so I get to give it to whoever I want. And there was a young lady who dressed up like Eternity, the cosmic entity. Um, Usually in Doctor Strange comics. I don't know if you guys know who Eternity is, but don't make me chase the internet for an image of Eternity, because I just tried to find a simple cover, and that didn't work out so good. But look up Eternity if you don't know what Eternity looks like, and then imagine a person dressed up like that. And that may be 10 years ago that I saw this person, and it made such an effect on me that I was like, first of all, character choice is above and beyond, completely obscure, deep cut, obscure character. Most people wouldn't know who it is. Um, and then the execution, just the way Eternity is it is a weird character. It has a weird kind of headdress and stuff like that, and it has a weird costume, and it's half cosmic and half human face, and so they had created the whole headdress, the whole gear, and the cloak, and the sleeves, and the whole thing. It was just fantastic. And so that is the inspiration for me to create a 3D medal of honor. Um, that person, I know their name because I wrote it down 10 years ago, but I don't remember the person's name now in front of me. But she did a bang up job. And if I ever see that person again, I'll make sure that I give them a medal for 10 euros ago. But I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I'm also going to print out 3D print out a medal for those of you out there who sacrificed your uh, access to Rob Liefeld by just asking him a simple question and then getting banned. I know there's probably Rob's had a long career. I know there are probably people that uh, he's exposed to that are just a-holes, and they just want to bust his chops and stuff like that. So I understand he has to be protective, but you, if people have simple questions, um, you shouldn't ban them. You can make new Zodiac's action figures. I actually listened to a Kevin Smith podcast the other day, and there's a company called shit. I don't remember the name. Freebies or Bendies, and they're making Jay and Silent Bob figures, and they're making them in numbers that are low enough that I might be able to afford something like that. So that is also something I'm looking into in my spare time, which I have little of. And that's why I need an assistant, Charlie Brown, to look into this kind of stuff. Ask his professional advice on how to draw feet. Yeah, exactly. See, that would be. He does a good job of joking about that kind of stuff, but I imagine that would be a question that would get you banned, right? Even though the director of Deadpool Wolverine, whose name escapes me, had a store. What was it? Liefeld's Shoes or shoe store or something. Like even this director is taking a jab at Rob. I bet he didn't get banned, but I bet that if you ask that question, um, in his live stream, I bet you'd get banned. And correct me if you disagree. I think me and Daytona are on the same page there.
All right, what's next?
They're not giving it up anytime soon. So when they put those movies out, they are getting all those screens. The screens that are going to be rented for 3 weeks in the name of Spider-Man belong to Sony. The profits belong to Sony, with the exception of the 10% that is kicked to Marvel for participation. And of course, that deal was cut with the understanding that Spider-Man would then jump into other films like Endgame, like Infinity War, which has happened. But Spider-Man and Supergirl are the two. I can't really focus on Doomsday. It's just too far away. It's a year from now. You can say, Rob, no, it's 11 months and 2 weeks, whatever. That's a year to me. My mind reads as a year. When it gets into the 9 month, I'll go, okay, it's 9 months. In the summertime.
What about Sal Buscema?
We'll have it, I guess, closer to focus.
What happened to Sal?
If there's a Doomsday trailer that drops in the Super Bowl,
Gives a fuck about. Who gives a fuck about Doomsday?
We'll talk about it. You know, I've said it time and again.
Sal Buscema.
Marvel, make a great comic that everyone's buzzing about, and we'll talk about it. They don't exist. The company, I left Marvel a year ago. I left them. I put them in the rearview mirror, and I just cannot believe the wipeout that I've seen. As I drove away, it's just like 10-car pileup, 15-car pileup. They just can't seem to climb out of the hole that they dug for themselves by taking their focus off the excellence that they were known for. And that's kind of the easiest way to put it. But one guy that built up Marvel was, I would say, a pillar of their company, and at the very least, a full leg of the table. If it's a table with 4 legs, Sal Buscema was one of those legs. Right. Sal Buscema,
there we go.
He passed away. We learned about it this week. 89 years old. The news broke on his birthday. If you had been watching, and some of you did, and I'm so thrilled and thankful that you have had such a great response to some of these interviews. The Jim Valentino interview, and Jim mentioned this on social media. The Jim Valentino interview was going, and we went for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And the news of Sal passing had broken while we were recording and not looking at our news feeds. And Jim had commented like, oh my gosh, Sal, the news broke when we were recording. So this is just fresh. This is just a week old. Jim's episode was for last Thursday, so I knew that this Monday episode would be all about Sal Buscema and his incredible legacy. So my wife, obviously Joy, has been with me on this comic book journey. I met Joy when I was making comic books in 1986. So she has been with me as a friend and then fiance, wife for 40 years of this. Okay. I would go over to her family's house after a day of drawing Hawk and Dove or an X Factor annual or a Spider-Man annual and just unwind because they were fun. 3 Joyce sisters, they're triplets, identical triplets. And the madness and the chaos would always make any deadline troubles I had just dissipate, just go away. It was so fun to just kind of buy into that. Todd McFarlane, I took Todd McFarlane to Joy's house, picked him up from the airport one time. He was appearing on a game show. If you aren't aware that Todd, I forget the name. I don't want to say what it wasn't. What's my line? It's when 3 people lie, or 3 people tell a story. You have to determine which one is telling the truth. And Todd was so excited he was going to tell people he was a taxi driver. They were all 3 telling people, I'm a taxi driver, and I took a fare from, I think, New York to California. I think that's the story that they have to share. I did not go to the taping of the talk show. Todd was really excited to be on it. That weekend, on a Friday night, I took him by Joy's house. Joy's family always talks about Todd and talking to all of them. And so we went out, we got some dinner, dropped Joy back off at the house, and then I drove Todd back up to his hotel in Los Angeles. And the next day, I was finishing up inking New Mutants 96. the second part, I think a few pages in New Mutants 96, the second part of the extinction agenda in the New Mutants. I don't know what part overall it was in the story, maybe 4, maybe 6. But that's very, very quick, because I was like, Todd, I got to meet a deadline. And I remember just sitting on the edge of my couch, inking all that Saturday, wondering, how was Todd doing? I may have seen him after hours that night as well, but that Friday night before his taping, we definitely hung out, had a good time. And Todd was in the Creole, Joy's last name is Creole, residence during that period. And so my wife has been involved in all aspects and met all of the personalities in comic books along the way. Obviously, Robert Kirkman, all the Image founders, partners. She had never met Sal Buscema, and neither had I. I have never met Sal. I had never met Sal. I've never interacted with Sal. I was not introduced to Sal. I never spoke to Sal. It is a great blind spot in my comic book kind of existence as a fan and as a pro. I never saw him on any guest list here.
He didn't do a lot of shows. I noticed that.
Conventions which were put up, or the monthly LA conventions, and if he was there and I missed him, then again, it was a blind spot. I tried to hightail it up, whether it was Marv Wolfman, Roy Thomas, Al Milgram, Dave Cockrum, Paul Smith, Chris Claremont, George Perez. All of these different talents appeared at monthly shows in Los Angeles, or at twice in Orange County. Creation Con would have the name of the company was Creation. They were called Creation Conventions, and they were mostly held at the Disneyland Hotel during my formative teenage years. I did not meet Sal. And so my wife asks me and says, so I saw that Sal Buscema died. It's on my, trending topics on social media. And I said, oh, Joy, I've talked to you about Sal a lot. She goes, what did he do? We were sitting there across the table from each other, and I said, fastest way to understand is if Sal Buscema never exists, hundreds of comics from Marvel, formative runs of Hulk, the Defenders, Spider-Man, Rom, they disappear.
I forgot about Rom.
Years worth of work. A giant hole is left in Marvel Comics.
50 years of Rom. Prolific. 50 episodes or 50 issues of Rom.
From the minute I started comics, Sal Buscema was drawing a comic, and his name was across like every comic I encountered. He would do issues of Avengers. He would do issues of the Defenders. Right here, these right here.
Jerry, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. I just realized, if you're still in the room, that you are shirtless during your streams, and I find that very unique. Is it true that you do all your shows with no shirt on? We're talking about Sal Buscema, who's one of my favorite artists of all time. If you guys know who Sal Buscema is, put a Cheers beer mug in my stream to honor him. One of the best that ever existed.
Unlike many artists, I don't think there's going to be a tremendous consensus on what people believe is their favorite. I'm gonna share today.
This particular piece is not for sale for you guys fresh to the stream, but don't forget to follow me, please. And if this is something that you would like, you can certainly go into the Buy It Now section, and items with the prefix code 100 are all the personal commissions. This is what I call a jam piece starter upper. It's something that's it's like aesthetically designed beforehand. So I do a drawing and I create, using Spidey's webs, I create frames for other artists to draw pictures inside these frames. A lot of times I see jam pieces that are like very sporadic, and you'll get a signature over here, and you get this tiny head over here, and you get something really elaborate over here. So that kind of inconsistency, as a fan, I think we can all do better. So the jam piece starter upper is my way of establishing the overall design, and then you let your various favorite artists fill in the spaces um, at conventions, or you can send them in the mail or whatever. Something like this in color is $150. If you would like one for yourself, this is already claimed. But if you would like one for yourself to take to shows, conventions, or whatever, um, let me know, and I'll walk you through the process. Also, I have on several occasions, I would say half the time, I get people to ask me to fill in these spaces with their favorite characters, and I can do that as well. Whatever works for you. Prince asks, were you the one doing flat rate boxes? I have not. I'm going to say no because I've never had one, never done one. Do you like the flat rate boxes? I love them. I can do one. I have a whole bunch of comics that I'm dying to get rid of. I can do a flat rate box if you want to. I got too many comics. It's official, and so I'm little by little selling it all off. Sorry, I saw someone doing flat rate boxes and they just disappeared. Sorry, they may have quit their stream. Right? Don't forget to follow me before you leave, please. We're headed for 1,900 followers here on whatnot. Jerry, he's the best, man. We like Jerry. I don't know how he keeps tabs on all of the sales that he makes. It's pretty crazy. He'll comb through a box and you're supposed to type, if you see a comic you like, you're supposed to type claim. And by the time I type claim and the issue that I want, he's halfway through the box. And then by the time he's halfway through the box while I'm typing, I see something else that I want. And so I have to go through this. So he's pretty good at keeping tabs on what everybody's bidding on. And if multiple people want something, he'll run like a sudden death auction. It's pretty cool. So if you're not following Jerry, please follow Jerry too. Jerry Robson, his name is. I've also done a jam piece where the spider sense is radiating off of his head, and those are the borders. But people generally like the spidey webs, and you can never get those wrong. So you can always work on spidey webs. You can never overwork them. You can never underwork them. You can never make a mistake. All right, on to color. Let's see what Rob's got to say while I do this.
Kevin, and
Oh no shit! I was just thinking of that issue.
walked into the Sizzler. You guys ever read the Sizzler? He would do issues of Avengers. He would do issues of the Defenders. Right here, these right here. Sal Buscema, one of my first Sal Buscema comics. I'm going to share it with you right here. Okay, all of these. This one's one of my favorites. This is a reader copy. Earlier today, I was encountering my copy of this. It's in a Mylar, but this is my reader copy. This is the copy that
He's got one of those comic racks behind him.
Jobs, and we're going to go over those.
I can't stand the comic racks. They destroyed comics. They have no nostalgia for me at all, except pain. They'd flip through the comics and bend them at the rack where the rack was holding them in. They'd bend the comics. It was ridiculous. Nostalgia for the comic rack at all.
is not best or greatest. And from what I can tell, reading social media and all the reactions to Sal, everybody has a different favorite. Everyone has a different favorite, period. I don't think you're going to, unlike many artists, I don't think there's going to be a tremendous consensus on what people believe is their favorite. We're gonna share. I'm gonna share today some of what I dig.
Daytona says just at this just had this discussion with an LCS, I imagine he's saying. I had him reorder an issue because of his racks.
Yeah. Yep. I used to go to, I'm old. So before there were um, comic shops, comic book stores, pop culture stores, I used to buy my comics at two places. One was called LaMarcia's, which is on Remsen Street in Cohoes, New York. And LaMarcia's, the comics would come out on a Wednesday. Or let's just say Wednesday. Forget the exact date, to be honest. And the comics were all on, I'd say, they were very kid friendly. They were on a rack, wooden rack slash shelf, about, I'd say, about 4 feet high. And the comics were behind a little, like a guard. But all the comics were standing on a shelf with a guard across them, and you would pick them out of the rack and no problems. They were all in good shape. The problem with LaMarcia's is LaMarcia's used to stamp them. So you'd see August 18th stamped on your cover. And so I don't know, I'm 6 years old. I don't know how old I am. I'm young, but I knew that I didn't like this. I don't like, to this day, I don't like people writing their names on my books. I don't like it. I certainly don't like date stamps. And then there's another store that I would go to. It was called Zulo's, and Zulo's was on Main Street. I think it was on Main Street in Cohoes, New York. And Zulo's didn't even have this guard rack. They just had shelves, magazine shelves. And the magazine shelves, they just had the comics on them, and they were very often they were overlapping, so you could only see like a couple inches because the comics overlapped one another. And I do remember on occasion, this happened at least once, but I remember specifically once where I pulled one comic out, and I did it in such a way that the entire shelf of comics fell on the floor. So that was rough. But Zulos would get their new comics the day later, and so for me, I wanted the comics when they would come out. So it was a continuing battle for me. Should I go to LaMarcia's and buy the comics today with the date stamp, or should I go to Zulos tomorrow and buy them without the date stamp? And very frequently, I couldn't wait. I was so horny for comics. I was just like, oh, let's go to LaMarcia's. Another thing, LaMarcia's was very close to my grandmother's house. So we could actually walk from Graham's place to LaMarcia's. It was very accessible, where Zulo's was a little further away. And then there were like maybe two or three other stores that we would go to by car that had comics, but these were the main two places, Zulo's and LaMarcia's. And then LaMarcia's closed, and then Zulo's got that fucking rack. That Hey Kids Comics that got that rack. And from that point on, it was a struggle for me to buy a comic book that wasn't bent over. Just a wreck. So I have no nostalgia about the comic book rack except painful. It's the equivalent of uh, Joan Crawford's daughter looking at a wire hanger. It's torture for me.
So, okay. So Rob's got one in his studio.
this accompanied me in 1975. This very comic, 1975. Okay, I'm 7, and this walked into the Sizzler. The Sizzler. You guys ever eaten the Sizzler? Went into the booth with me with my parents on a weeknight. Probably, I think, if I remember, it was a Thursday night, and I didn't look up. I was too busy looking at this comic. This is my comic, torn to shit awful. I have a pristine 9/8 of this. Okay, that's not what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to share this beat up one. It's barely hanging on by a thread.
That's what comics are all about.
Of Tiger. In regards to Sal and his passing, I want to read. I think one of the best eulogies I've ever read, and it's from Eric Larson. Yes, Spider-Man Eric Larson. Yes, Image partner, Image founder, Eric Larson. He wrote what I believe. When I read it, I was like, "This is perfect. This is exactly. This covers everything about Sal Buscema." And I'm going to read this to you right now. He posted this across all his social medias, and he added it to other accounts after the response to this was so overwhelming. He said, "Sorry to hear about the passing of the great Sal Buscema. I have read a million of the comics that he worked on over the years. I never met the man, but worked with him briefly on The Defenders. He made a huge impact and will be very much missed. Sal was a rock, and Sal was what every editor dreamed of, a guy who could deliver the goods, a guy they could depend on. Sal was one of the guys they could turn to whenever somebody else fumbled the ball. He could pound out a solid issue over a weekend and make that deadline. Because he was so prolific, he was frequently taken for granted. He'd do his regular books and still step in and draw a fill-in or two. He wasn't a fan favorite, but he was one of the handful of creators who made the trains run on time, who made Marvel work. His work was clear, his line was bold and decisive. He didn't hide behind elaborate rendering or other parlor tricks to disguise poor draftsmanship. There was no confusion with the Sal Buscema job. You knew what was going on. He was an inker's dream. Everything was well designed, well defined, and yet there was room to embellish and room to play. If you just went over the lines, it was a perfectly competent job. And if you could add shadows and textures and flourishes, you could make it sing. As an inker, he brought a level of craft to the table, which often elevated the material. If you struggled to draw something, Sal had the artistic chops to make your ass, to save your ass, and to make the horse look like less of an anorexic dog and more like an actual horse. He inked with the same bold confidence that he penciled. I never met the man, and yet I knew him my entire life for him having been in it. May he rest in peace. That is just beautiful. I cannot get over how just pitch perfect that is. And I read this to my wife. I read this to Joy. And Joy and I focused on the same thing. I thought this was so brilliant. I never met the man, and yet I knew him my entire life. Boom. That is how I feel. As I said, I did not know Sal. I did not meet him. I never spoke a word to him. I don't have an email exchange. And I'm the lesser for it. I am the lesser for it. I can't sit and gloat and feel like, oh my gosh, how fortunate was I to visit with the Kirbys, to be at the Kirbys' house, to dine with them multiple times, to hang out with Jack, to be on panels with Jack. To go to his house, to sit in the backyard, to touch the drawing table, to be in Stan Lee's house, to sit with Stan in the backyard, put my feet in his pool, just swap stories with these greats, to have worked with Gil Kane, whom I love, to share hugs and embraces with the great Jim Steranko, to have dinner with Neil Adams, and just listen to Neil, also charm my wife, as well as give all sorts of incredible knowledge. I can't share all those and then at the same time not feel completely remiss and just kick myself for not having met and interacted with Sal Buscema. Everything Eric said is true. He had all the fundamentals, and this is why I think people overlook Sal Buscema. I was going to hit it off right here. I lived through my first encounter with basketball in the NBA was met.
1 second. Here we go. Give me a second. All of that is true, what Eric Larson said. But I want to share with you something in my sketchbook. See if I can find it. I very often I would grab, if I'm doing research on something, or if I'm certainly affected by something. I often would make copies of these certain pictures, and then I would put them in my sketchbook for reference. So here's a Salvage Summer drawing, undisputable. Look at the line of action now. This guy is moving. Here's John Byrne, who we would consider another icon in the industry, and look how relatively quiet these two drawings are compared to this one. Who's moving faster? Well, I mean, we can disagree, but that's Sal Buscema. Give me a second. Here we go. Is this guy in pain? Look at that drawing. As if this were a man. Is this guy in pain? This man is knocking over this. This guy is destroying this guy. If this guy were a robot, pieces would be flying off him. That's what I'm talking about. This is Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema is about the kinetic, the undeniable kinetic energy of superhero action. He's a master at it. Here we go. There's another one. What do you think? How far do you think these guys are flying when this guy is coming at you? Another one. Look at these guys. They're just being torn up. Let's see if we can get my line of saliva. Not on this drawing, but he's not close enough to the camera. Let's see if we can find some more. Here's another Sal right here. When you want to study how to do superhero action, this guy's fucking horizontal, kicking this guy into a bunch of boxes, crates. Look at the action going on right here. How tall is this drawing? I'd say it's an inch tall. This guy is moving. This guy is moving. Sal. Where are you, Sal? Any more Sals? I think that's it with Sal in this particular sketchbook. But I've got a lot of sketchbooks with inspirational things pasted in them. Just to give you a sense, I don't think Eric Larson really gave Sal credit for that amped up kinetic, violent energy that he showed in his comics. Just great shit. I mean, there aren't many people that can match him in that kind of category. There just aren't. Certainly not the '80s. The '80s generation. Byrne, Miller, Sienkiewicz, Perez. None of them captured that volume, that intensity. Hey there, I'm here. Did you get my message, Pelux 13? Did you get my message that I sent you? Um, if it's cool with you, this is going to be your piece.
Yes, I got it.
So if you're cool with this, I think this one's actually better than the one that you thought you were buying, but you tell me.
Oh man, I'm all good with it. I'm glad to hear. Thank you very much.
The weird thing is, I don't somehow I don't get a message from Whatnot either by email or by text or even within the Whatnot app, like a window or anything that shows that someone has bought something from the store. So I just discovered your purchase today. And so I apologize if there's a delay, but it'll go out either Friday or Saturday morning. So I'm going to finish it up. You can watch me work on it here. Um, and thank you for buying it. I appreciate it very much. We're talking about Sal Buscema today because he's a giant, and more people should be talking about Sal Buscema. I did meet Sal. We had breakfast in the Netherlands, of all places. He was a sweetheart of a guy, very low key. I don't remember seeing him even at conventions in the U.S. So I don't remember being at the same show as Sal, other than the one that we appeared at in the Netherlands. And I wonder if he didn't do a lot of shows because he felt an obligation to draw 100 head sketches for people, because that's what he was doing in the Netherlands. Like, I would talk to people who were at my table at this convention in Breda. The city was called Breda. And they would say, I'm on Sal's list to get a free sketch. And I was like, oh, yeah, what number are you? And they would say 130 or something like that. And I'm like, dude, is Sal going to do? I said I couldn't do 130 sketches in the entire weekend. And that was just for that one day. Sal was quite gifted with speed as well. It's pretty crazy. He had it all. Superhero kinetic energy and speed and reliability. Really rare thing.
I really appreciate you reaching out and letting me know. Oh, no worries. That's why I'm here. I'm here at work at the moment, but I'll have your stream going on and looking at you do my cover.
No worries. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure you follow me. I don't recognize your name. If you're new to the stream, please follow me, okay? But do your work. You got to do work. I get it. That's why I'm here. I'm working. These are my work hours. Let's see. Back to Sal. Let's talk about Sal. We love Sal.
Johnson, when he got drafted to the Lakers and the Lakers blew up. And suddenly there were a whole lot more basketball games on in our house, the ones that we could watch. Most of them still weren't being broadcast. And I absolutely do remember watching games after the news with my dad. After the news, like at 11:30, they would play NBA games. It was the magic. Sorry for the pun. It was the influence of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird that indeed, when people tell you that, I'm a living witness to it. I was 12. Suddenly basketball became a thing. We got the LA Times delivered to our doorstep. We got the OC Register. My dad was a 2 newspaper guy. And when the Lakers started winning, they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger splashes and stories. So
What happened to Sal?
the NBA became a thing, and it was built on the flash, the sass, and the gamesmanship of 2 standouts, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And of course, Michael Jordan entered with his own particular brand of incredible take your breath away flash. His dunks, his shots, the tongue hanging out, taken off from the top of the free throw line and dunking the. I mean, look, he came with his own brand of flash. Then we pivoted to the Shaq and the Kobe era. And yes, I'm skipping a lot to get to where I need to go. And Kobe had all of the flash of Michael Jordan. People say he emulated him. Yeah, you can emulate moves. So did Vince Carter. And so did Tracy McGrady to some extent. And certainly Allen Iverson at the same age, during the same era, had great, incredible moves and took your breath away. Kobe went to 7 NBA finals and he won 5 of them. And at the three-peat, had the back-to-back with the Pau Gasol era. I think that cemented Kobe's
Talk
greatness.
about Sal. I don't know
A team that he always had to
what
go
he's
through.
talking about.
And a guy that was someone who was opposing both himself and Shaq at all times was the incredible Tim Duncan of the San Antonio Spurs. And we all love Tim Duncan in regards to the guy played the game the
Did
right
I fast forward or something?
But even today, next week, somebody somewhere on the radio will bring up Tim Duncan, whether it's Colin Cowherd or somebody from ESPN, and they'll talk about how nobody talks about Tim Duncan. They called him the big fundamental for a reason. They didn't call Shaq the big fundamental. Shaq had power, he had size, he also had flash.
Shaq stood under the hoop.
It would always frustrate me.
And they passed them the ball.
A giant Laker fan who feared and respected the Spurs as much as
Talk about Salby Sema.
Was that Tim Duncan had this killer bank shot. He would stand 12, 15 feet from the basket, 10 feet, and knew exactly where to bank it. And you know what? If you've ever played banking, there's a certain lack of respect that comes with the bank shot when you're a kid. But as you get older, you're like, you're looking for the easiest possible way to score. And, what wins games is the guy who scores the most at the end, right? Tim Duncan had this incredible. He could bank it left. He could bank it right. He just had it one summer after,
he's losing me.
Heading into a new season, Kobe said that he was practicing the Tim Duncan bank shot all summer long. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And then suddenly you saw Kobe implement it. Tim Duncan didn't have a lot of flash. He certainly didn't have the power to throw people down and around and toss them as Shaq did. And he didn't take off and glide through the air like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. He was long. He was lean. He made his free throws.
He's losing me, folks.
He had a post game. He had a pull-out game. He had the bank game.
What?
There's a reason they called him the big fundamental. He was the most fundamentally sound player in the NBA, and Tim Duncan fans don't understand why he wasn't more celebrated. He felt quiet. He wasn't loud. He didn't make his intentions known above all else. He was the quiet assassin. Salby Sema is comic book's version of the big fundamental.
No, I just showed you examples of how that's not true.
He could always be counted on.
Nobody can match his energy.
Just piss you off when you're highly paid, $25 million a year, $40 million a year NBA star can't make a freaking free throw. My kids made free throws. It was the most important thing. I've talked about it all the time. And they had giant moms waving in front of their face, stuff that you see in travel ball that you're like, why is this even allowed? And my kids, they just locked in. Swish, 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 swish. Salby Sema had every possible aspect of his game down pat. And like Eric said, he didn't lean into the flash, but he was everything. He was the rock. He was fundamentally everything you could possibly ask for. Beautiful figure work, great faces and expressions, tremendous backgrounds. But I'm going to tell you what I in diving back into Sal, his staging was everything. He was in many ways as good a storyteller as his brother John. His brother John had a little more of the flash, had a little more of the panache. Held a higher station in the views of the comic book public. I have put John on my Mount Rushmore, and he belongs there. He was that ridiculously incredible. And, so there's a certain argument to be made that Sal was Robin to John's Batman. But being Robin isn't such a bad thing. You have heard me speak of and speak on Salby Sema on a dedicated episode. And I want to tell you this right now because it's something that you should go and listen to if you haven't already. One of the most interesting episodes of the last 2 years involved Sal and when he didn't necessarily comply with his boss, the editor-in-chief, Jim Shooter. It is a dedicated episode about Secret Wars 2. And in this podcast, I shared with you guys how
that is true that Jim did not care for Salby Sema's work. I'm witness to that. and I disagreed. I disagreed with Shooter's assessment of Sal's work, and I still do. We'll get into details of that. If it's hard to describe without showing what we're talking about, but that is true.
Sal drew an entire issue of Secret Wars, an entire issue. And that episode is October 1st, 2024. It's called The Secret Wars. Okay. And the entire first issue of Secret Wars, number 1, which was a follow-up to a giant blockbuster book, was penciled by Sal Buscema. And those pages eventually were released and we all got to see them. And when we did see those pages a couple years back, it was like, why would you ever have this redrawn by anybody else? And yet, that's exactly what Jim Shooter had Sal Buscema do. He had him redraw the entire. No. He asked him to redraw. He asked him to redraw the book, and Sal said, "This is a bang up job. This is a bang up job I've done for you, and I'm not going to redraw this. I drew exactly what you gave me." Jim, who also passed, who also I have nothing but tremendous love and respect for, and have praised here many times. And we did a show on Jim after Jim passed. And Jim was one of the greats, one of the best editor-in-chiefs. That doesn't mean he was perfect and he didn't have flaws. The penciler of Secret Wars 2 that you received turned out to be by Al Milgram. But in this episode, The Secret Wars, I walk you through that Sal Buscema, and again, these pages are accessible online. And right here, during the episode, I said, I am looking at the entire issue I've had in my possession since 2015. That's when it was released. These pages were posted online. It was revealed to me that these pages existed. Sal Buscema, if you weren't familiar with him, was a staple, one of the most under-celebrated staples of Marvel comics during the late Silver and the entirety of the Bronze Age. I'm reading to you directly from my October 1st, 2024 podcast. I said there's no book that Sal did not draw. Avengers, Defenders, Thor, Captain America, Spider-Man, all the Marvel books across the spectrum. He was fast and he was capable. I talk about some of my favorite issues that he did. The Defenders, I'm going to share some of those with you as well, some of my favorite inkers. I talk about the issues of Micronauts and ROM and Battlestar Galactica that he drew. Here I say Sal was a dynamo, a tour de force. Editors called him whenever they needed him to plug a hole in their schedule. When you look at these pencils, they are incredibly detailed. And for whatever reason that we don't know, because Jim isn't here to state again why he did not, but he did not like what Sal did. And then I read an interview with Al Milgram where Jim called him up and said, I'm going to pay you double time to draw this book over because you have to do it so fast. And Al said, why wouldn't I? And then the royalties would be great. But those Sal Buscema pencils for Secret Wars 2 exist, and it's one of the first times I shared very full-throated, again, 2 years ago, how much Sal meant to the company and how I am still baffled to this day. Marvel possesses those. If they paid Sal for them and they have the rights to them, this is the time to get that job re-inked and reissued. Give one page to every inker. People will go bonkers nuts. Call it The Secret Wars 2. Okay? Give the proceeds to Sal and his family. Jim, I did read, and I may have mentioned it in there, that Jim, and I don't have any knowledge of this. I certainly don't agree with this. He claims that Sal leaked those pages after tweaking them himself to try and win a decades-old argument. That's not for me to know. It's certainly not for you to know. I call bullshit. It looked like the Sal Buscema that I was digging in 1985. So Sal was called upon because you always knew what you would get. Even in the flash of what we call the late 80s, early 90s, the Image style, Sal was gainfully employed. And as his word of his death passed last week, many of you, I'm going to call you the Robert Kirkman age, many of you who are in your mid 40s now, your exposure to him was from the Spectacular Spider-Man that he did during and around the time that Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson were doing Spider-Man. And he was penciling, and I was aware of it. I didn't pick up as many issues because, as I've shared with you guys, I'm not really a Spider-Man guy. Outside of Todd and Ditko and Gil Kane and Eric Larson, I'm really not a Spider-Man guy. I've never enjoyed either of the Romita. I've got them for purposes of my collection. I have the original John Romita Sr. run. John Romita Sr. He draws beautifully. I know that his Spider-Man became the face of all the merchandising of Spider-Man until Eric Larson. Case in point, for years, all of us know our checks had John Romita Sr.'s Spider-Man on them. Then for about a decade, they had Eric Larson's Spider-Man on them, and now they have Mickey Mouse. Spider-Man lost out to Mickey. But I follow artists. Marvel Team Up, I bought because I love the format and all the different characters it introduced me to. The Sons of the Tiger, Moondragon, Scarlet Witch, solo adventures of Vision. A solo outing of Vision paired with Spider-Man. Those are the kind of team ups that I craved. This was my monthly Spider-Man book that I bought. If John Byrne did an issue, I would buy it of the Spider-Man, the regular Spider-Man comic, and he did at least one of Spectacular, maybe a couple of Amazing in the heyday of the 1977, 78, 79, 1980. But the reason I don't have those Sal Buscema books, it's the Sal that I have the least volume of. I've seen them; they're fantastic. The covers he was doing were fantastic. But when I came onto the scene, Marvel Team Up, so this is Sal, this is Sal, this is Sal, this is Sal.
It's all Sal.
That Captain America is Sal.
Not.
This is Sal, Sons of the Tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Great action is the first thing that I'm going to tell you when you're sitting in the booth.
Finally,
At the Sizzler, and your parents are eating their dinner, and you're chomping on some French fries. You're just amazed by the punches being thrown.
finally,
A lot of people.
Nobody, no one.
Action, and they should, because Sal was an incredible action artist.
Yes, finally.
He always
Nobody did action like
to
him.
have these characters move, and the kicks and the punches landed, and the characters look great. This job is inked by Mike Esposito, who was an inker that I did not care much for. But again, tell me that you don't feel that punch.
Thank you.
You don't feel all of these different.
Nobody.
Are being thrown.
There's probably 5 artists that could beat him with the energy.
Whenever I saw his name on the books, I'd be so excited. I would love to interact with Sal Buscema Comics. And the great thing is that they started to appear everywhere in my collection. The Captain America that I was buying in late '74, early '75 was the Nomad Saga. Steve Rogers had put off the Captain America costume, and we covered this entire Nomad Saga probably 3 or 4 years back. So Sal came up in there as well, because Nomad was a design that I just loved. I loved how Nomad looked with his gold mask, his blue and gold costume, and that was Steve Rogers forging a new identity himself outside of Captain America. He could no longer wear the Captain America costume because it was a reflection of how America was feeling post Watergate during the Nixon era. Politics have always been in the comic books, and this created the Nomad sequence era storyline, and Sal was the artist predominantly on many of those issues, along with Frank Springer,
Frank Robbins.
Sal was everywhere. He did, as I said, the Thors, and he did the Defenders, and he plugged holes and did storylines. There was a 2-part Avengers story that drops right in the middle of the George Perez, John Byrne era. Graviton, who was kind of like the Avengers version of Magneto.
That's great stuff.
And I can remember those panels to this day. I haven't looked at it since, but there is a sequence where all the Avengers are pinned on a giant rock floating in the air, and I see it right now. He pinched hit George Perez would start a storyline, maybe do 2 chapters, and then Sal Buscema would do the third. That happened a lot in course of the Avengers and other titles. A couple years ago, I asked my buddy to meet me at coffee. What am I saying? A couple years ago. This is about 20 years ago. I buy these phone books. I'm holding up the Defenders.
Mm-hmm.
This is volume 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of great Sal Buscema Defenders issues. I don't have all the Defenders phone books, but I bought this one for a reason. Because it has black and white editions of Sal Buscema, as I'm holding up right here, showing the Defenders all gathered in Doctor Strange's, is it called the Sanctum Sanctorum? And I met with my buddy, and I remember, and I won't say his name, he's an artist in the business, and he said, I just don't see it, Rob. I know you're getting excited about this, but I just don't see it. But I said, look at how much Klaus, the embellishing that Klaus, I can see that is a Sal Buscema face, but I can also see, as I'm holding this panel of Doctor Strange's face up, and here is this panel of Nebulon, and then there's that angry deer right there. Sal, as Eric Larson stated, in the hands of a great inker or a great embellisher, would then elevate him, his work, because the fundamentals were so sound. The structures, there was all the figures, the twists, the turns of the bodies, the action, the flying, the flying characters, the flying punches, the kicks, the drama. Like I just said to you, Doctor Strange sitting sullen. Klaus Janson, Bob McLeod, Joe Rubenstein. These are just some of the great inkers, and I'm going to tell you my favorite job. I've got all 4 of them right here. I'm going to share with you. But with the right inker, and Sal would go on to ink himself a lot. But when I'm coming in, he's being inked by Klaus Janson. He's being inked by Joe Rubenstein. He's being inked by Bob McLeod. He's being inked by a guy who would go on to make his bones entirely as a penciler, but started as an inker, a gentleman named Joe Staten. Joe Staten just, I think, turned somewhere in his 70s. He just had a birthday as well. I have it right here. Again, we're looking at 1975. Joe Staten went on to become a penciler on the Justice Society. He introduced a Huntress. He did extended issues of Green Lantern. He did E-Man. Joe made his bones, but when I encountered him, he was inking Sal Buscema on the Hulk. Mm-hmm. Right there, there's the splash page. Yep. And the reason I have this is issue 199 when they capture and take in the Hulk, Doc Samson. That's a Rich Buckler cover. I think
I know Joe a little bit. He would tell me, I would ask him
Questions about this time period, because this is about when I came into comics as well. And so Joe would often say his relationship with Marvel is he wouldn't get any emails or letters or anything. He would just get packages of pages for him to ink. And he didn't know when or if he would get another packet of pages. So around the same time that Rob is talking about, he was also inking Sal on Avengers stuff about this same time period, a year or 2 before. So he's getting pages, Avengers pages and Hulk pages in the same kind of time period, and never sure if he's going to get another package or not. I guess the communication back in the day wasn't so great, which makes kind of sense that I associate Staten mainly as a DC artist, because he did most of my favorite superhero work at DC.
Just a little something. Followed and booked. This looks so wicked awesome. Thank you, bud.
Appreciate it. Just about done, actually. I'm going to add some a little tighten up some of the webs, but this is pretty much done. So that was an interesting story from Joe, and also a little disappointing too. He never knew when his next gig would come from Marvel. I'm not sure who the editor-in-chief was at that time.
Lucia. No, this is Rich Buckler, inked by John Romita Sr., who was also a hell of a finisher.
Yes.
There's a battle that takes place in the swamps with Doc Samson in the Hulk. And
Man thing.
again, this is a 1975 comic. Marvel team up, Hulk, Defenders, Sal is everywhere. And Hulk is hiding out in the swamp here. And for many issues, Joe Staton inked Sal Buscema, and you can see that Joe brought a different flavor to Sal's work. Sal's storytelling, his look at that back on Hulk. Look at the the stress of the musculature. Look at those gestures. Look at the power. This is Joe Staton, kind of giving his own flavor right here on this face of this guy's name is Quartermain. But I really liked the faces that Joe Staton and Sal Buscema would create together. And the sheer, volume of the action. And you can see here, before Joe Staton was a penciler, you can see him imposing some of his style on the fundamentals. I see that that's a Sal Buscema face. I see that that's got a Joe Staton flavor to it as well. And it plays throughout. And Joe Staton is inking Sal. I don't know if he liked him. I think somebody told me maybe he didn't like him. I loved it. I didn't know who liked who and who didn't, enjoy. And maybe the jobs that I'm about to share with you, these are my 4 favorite. It's one storyline. I think it's one of the best storylines Sal ever did. I'm going to hold it. I don't know that Sal liked those inks either. Maybe they were too heavy-handed for him. I saw Sal perfectly through all these jobs. But this is another great. The Cyclops, okay? The Cyclops.
Bermuda cover.
This is the last page leading into that. That's Joe Staton inking over Sal Buscema. This was my youth. These are the books that are coming out that Sal was pairing. I love the flavor. Joe Staton, okay, and our pal Sal. I love that they called him in the credits our pal Sal. All of these great Hulk jobs. We go to Hulk 227. I'm about to show you another Klaus job. Hulk 227 right here. This is Klaus.
That's for Klaus.
Or is this Joe Rossi? Hang on. Nope, this is Klaus Janson once again inking. Look at the flavor that he brings to Sal because the staging is there. Look at the staging of this panel, the splash page. Okay, 277.
That's not the best splash page, though. That's not a good example. That's very pedestrian. You guys can't see it, but
these are great drawings. Yeah. Again, it doesn't exist unless the under drawing is there. But what Klaus was doing was bringing a different light source. He would take what Sal gave him and said, "Well, I think I'm going to light this down the center. I'm going to light this from the left. I'm going to light this from the right." Klaus, Rubenstein, Bob McLeod, the guys who I really liked who inked him, they would play a little with him. I'm going to tell you right now that is absolutely this giant splash page. That absolutely is Klaus Janson adding a light source. Mm-hmm. And you can see it here. I mean, look at the texture on the lab coat. Okay, Sal's giving you the structure.
That's another discussion.
But Klaus Janson is going in
worth
and what Eric Larson said,
playing with how important is the light source.
And he is going to sing.
How important is dramatic lighting to a superhero comic?
Once Sal gets on Hulk, if he's on in 1975, he's also on in 1985. Sal leaves the book in 1985. Mike Mignola steps in for him. I'm going to tell you right now. That's 10 years on the Hulk, a decade. He was several generations Hulk artist. And along the way, he did get all these other great finishers. But there was a stretch run beginning in around 1980, 81 through 82, 83, 84. He was either inking the book himself or Joe Sinnott or another inker was inking. but it was Sal. But Sal was starting to ink himself on ROM, this toy comic that we've talked about in the age of licensing. And there's one of the first episodes I ever did is called License to Thrill, I think. And in that, it talks about how Marvel, based on the success of Star Wars, went all in on Micronauts, Battlestar Galactica, ROM, toy comics, movie comics, tie-ins. Sal did issues of all those, and he did an extended run on Battlestar Galactica with no other than Klaus Janson, no one other. But his ROM, he started making himself. And those are some of my favorite issues. ROM 1, 2, 3.
Palooka, thank you very
Fantastic.
much for
Just
the gig.
fantastic.
Appreciate it. We're going to move on.
This is a special book that was put out about 10 years ago. The Artist Select series by IDW. Okay? IDW partnered with Marvel, and this was the brainchild of one Chris Ryle, who was the editor-in-chief of IDW, and he loves Sal. He does an interview with Sal in here. I'm going to read some of the excerpts. How Sal saw the industry, saw himself in the industry. This interview is called Hulking Out. But before that, before Len Wein died, because those Sal Buscema Hulk issues I was showing you, those were that Doc Samson in the Swamp 199. That's written by Len Wein. Let me write to you what the late great Len Wein had to say about Sal. He says, if ever there was a consummate comic book art craftsman, wow, how easily one falls back into that old Marvel rhythm. It would have to be Sal Buscema. His work has always demonstrated an easy grace and an exceptional sense of storytelling that readily explains his long tenure as one of Marvel Comics' premier illustrators. I first crossed paths with Sal very early in my career when I was still a struggling newbie, making my living by telling short stories to DC and Marvel's various mystery titles. My second sale to Marvel Comics was a short story called A Change of Mind, which appeared in print May of 1969 in a short-lived book called Chamber of Darkness. In those days, Marvel had just recently decided to stop using host characters like the Digger to introduce their mystery titles, replacing them with artists themselves as hosts. A pretty novel idea, then as now. And that's how I met Sal Buscema. On the splash panel of my story, leaning casually over his drawing board to tell the readers my tale. I couldn't have had it any better. This is so great. He goes on to say, skip ahead 6 years. In the interim, I'd somehow become one of Marvel's top writers, including the monthly adventures of the Amazing Spider-Man, the Mighty Thor, the Invincible Iron Man, and most importantly, the Incredible Hulk. God, where would Marvel have been without adjectives? At any rate, about halfway through my run on the Hulk, my penciler on the book, the extraordinarily talented and now much missed Herb Trimpe, decided to leave the book after years of yeoman service to try his hand at newer, greener pastures. He goes on to write, this left me with a bit of a problem. The Hulk was, after all, a monthly comic book. We had about a month before the next issue was due to hit the stand. So who to replace Herb? Those of us tasked with answering that question did not take long to say, it's Sal Buscema. We said all as one, and we were off and running. In those days, unlike today, when I provide my artist with a detailed page panel outline that includes rough dialogue, almost a first draft of the script, I was working with people who knew how to tell a story. All I had to provide Sal was a conversation on the phone that allowed him to take notes on what I wanted each and every month. From there, Sal always knew exactly what to do with the page. No matter who Sal was paired with as his inker, be it the talented Joe Staton, currently award-winning artist on the legendary Dick Tracy newspaper, or the slightly heavier-handed Ernie Chan, Sal's spectacular sense of storytelling was never lost in transition, and it never looked better than when, as on the majority of the stories included, Sal finished his own pencils with his own incredible brushwork. Though a case could also be made for the world-class inks that the remarkable Joe Sinnott brought to the work of not only Sal, but everyone else he inked. So here we are with a high-class special volume showcasing Sal's work in the format it's always deserved to be in. Well done, says I. And about damn time. Len Wein, Northridge, May 16th, 2016. Chris Ryle then does an interview with Hulk. I hope you enjoyed that. Len was exactly what he claims to be. When you look at Giant Size X-Men #1, Len's the writer. Hulk 180, Hulk 181, Len's the writer. Swamp Thing, Wolverine, the new X-Men. Look no further than Len Wein. For him to write that about Sal is just terrific. Chris Ryle conducts this interview with Hulk. What I read to you was particularly difficult because it was white on red. The rest of this is not as difficult. And when Chris Ryle says, "Hey, Sal, for this book, I collected a number of stories as well as some favorites of mine. I suggested the stories that I did because I wanted to spread out the different inkers that worked on your stuff, as well as a number of stories that you inked yourself. You've had inkers at the start of your run, and then started inking Hulk yourself for a number of years. Do you have any say over the inker at some point when you start on a book?" I want to come back to a thought that I want to stray on. Todd McFarlane would inform all of us all the time, when you ink yourself, you're making more money. And nothing is better for an artist than to make more money, because then everything is a little easier. And in a time where page rates were not the biggest and the best, if you could rough out the pencils and then really finish the gig with
draw
heavy
with a
inks,
pen,
which is something that Eric Larson does now, I do now, I think Adam Kubert does, all the guys who ink themselves by hand, not the iPad guys. That's a different mode entirely. It's still getting to the same place, but inking on paper is a different animal. You go rough, and then you go and you add all the embellishing in the ink stage. Well, it's easy to then get paid because the page rates are broken down by penciling and inking. And so Sal, no doubt, I'm going to tell you what I wanted to say. I think he realized, I'm so good and so prolific, and I came in the Silver Age. I came in the 60s. Now it's 1979 when I'm doing ROM. It's 1978, 79 when I'm doing Hulk. I can just ink it myself and double end the job and make more money. And then when royalties become a thing, I'm getting twice the royalties because I'm getting a royalty as an inker and as a penciler. So I believe Sal had an invested interest that went beyond just wanting to do the inks, as so many people did at that time. The inking of yourself could turn out to be really a financial boon, just adding that extra aspect to your job. But in this interview with Chris Ryle in this artist select edition from IDW, Chris Ryle says, "Hey," he says, "Sal, for the book, I wanted to collect a number of your favorite stories as well as some of my favorites. I suggested the stories that I did because I wanted to spread out the different inkers that worked on your stuff, as well as a number of stories that you inked yourself. You had inkers at the start of your run and then started inking them yourself for a number of years. Did you have any say over the inker at any point when you started on the book?" Sal's answer is amazing. He says, "Yes, I probably could have had a lot of say, Chris, but I never involved myself in that area where, do I want to work with this writer or do I want to work with that writer? And do I want to work with this inker, and so on and so forth? Because I've always been governed by one thing uppermost in my mind. I was very fortunate in starting to work for Marvel, and frankly speaking, I never would have had a day off unless I decided to take a day off, because for my entire career, they kept me as busy as I wanted to be. So it was uppermost in my mind. It was important to me in my mind to allow others to be in that same category. If they wanted a certain inker to work on the book, I was always like, great, who am I to say no? Even though I may not have been crazy about the inker. This is a guy trying to earn a living and trying to show support for his family. I was very conscious of that aspect of it. So I would never say, no, I definitely don't want this guy. It just never entered my mind. To me, I was just happy somebody was working on it and somebody was earning a living and supporting their family. And that was good enough for me. I mean, this is the amazing answer. I would not have answered in that manner. I'm not sure any of my peers would have.
No.
But this guy is a super, again, just Mr. Fundamental.
I told you he's a sweetie.
And again, you could afford,
I told you.
When Eric says it, when I say it, when you read about it.
Jesus.
He was minimum. Salvi Simon was contributing at a minimum 40 pages a month to the comic book industry. 40 pages a month.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, 2 monthly books plus general
whatever.
I want to say he probably averaged between 48 to 50 pages a month his entire career. It was that crazy. You would pick up an Avengers drawn by him, a Defenders drawn by him, a Marvel team up, and a Hulk in the same month.
Mhm.
People talk about how prolific guys like John Byrne was. It was incredible because John definitely lived in a world, in regards to his own contribution to the page, of more flash, more panache.
I don't know about
Maybe
flash.
he drew
Detail.
a style that we all just connected more with. Because you've definitely, when Eric Larson says in his statement that he was often taken for granted, he was often overlooked, maybe it was because he was just, we took him for granted because he was always there, which we're not taking him for granted today. We're here to celebrate him, just like we did in episodes prior, but today to really put some focus on Sal Buscema but between that incredible introduction by Len Wein and then this interview that Chris gives, and Chris has some great interviews. Again, it's not knowing him at all. It helps to read these interviews, which I'm not sure that this is online. I'm not sure this is available. That's why I'm trying to go out of my way, because I knew in my collection that I had these. I love these artist selects, and I got this Sal Buscema one like the day that it came out. And Chris said, Chris asked him. He said, it was amazing how your books always shipped on time. Okay. To which Sal says, one of the things I've been blessed with early on in my career, since I finally got hang of
Speed.
and become comfortable with them, was speed. I remember years ago, I got to throw this little anecdote in there because it's such a left-handed compliment. I worked in a wonderful art studio in New York City for a period of about a year. As a matter of fact, John, my brother, and I worked there together. And one of the guys that always walked around, he'd stand around, he'd be looking, and he'd be looking right at you, one of the artists that he'd be staring at as you were doing what you did, and he'd say, boy, Sal, you're not very good, and you're slow as hell. Okay? Chris Ryle laughs. He says, and the first impression is that if he'd paid me a compliment, then all of a sudden I'd bomb and I'd fail. And Chris Ryle said, yeah. He says, so it was just a funny thing I thought I'd inject. I always remember that because I thought it was really funny, and that's one of the things I said about myself. I wasn't very good, and I was slow as hell. Laughter. Actually, the truth is, I may not have been the best artist in the world, but I was fast. I could really turn the stuff out and do a reasonably quality job, which is why Marvel kept me busy all the time. I would be working on my own stuff, and they'd call me up and they'd say, Sal, we have this book that we need to get done right away, and we need to get it done quicker than we thought. Can you handle it? And I'd say, yeah, sure. Just make sure that the check is in the mail. That's Sal. Just make sure the check is in the mail, okay? Chris says, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this big retrospective book. I mean, these books don't happen for everybody, Sal Buscema says, well, that's very kind, Chris. I really appreciate it, and I think it's something that boggles my mind because when I got into this business 104 years ago, when I think of all that it's turned into, it just blows me away. I'm amazed, even to the point of getting credits in the movies, He says...
That's another thing. Who are the characters he's probably created?
Chris says, this leads into my next question. If you do a convention or if you take up a commission now, people rave to you about the Hulk, and they talk to you about how much your Hulk stories meant to them. Do you have any idea at the time that what was going on, that this was going on, that it was going to become a thing, that people could talk about it in such revered tones, his Hulk run? Or was it just a thing where in your head it was like, I just got to get this monthly book done? I guess what I'm asking is, at what point do you start to realize that your run on any book has taken on such a life? Sal says, well, it's a fairly recent phenomenon because, well, here again, it was a job, and I always considered myself a professional, and my job was to do as good a job as I could possibly do in the time frame that I was given, which was whatever was allotted to me. So to hear this now, and to hear people say, "Oh, yours is the definitive Hulk," or "yours is whatever," it never occurred to me at the time. Again, for a lack of a better phrase, please forgive my lack of creativity. It just boggles my mind. It really does. I think about it, and I still can't, in some ways, believe that it's happened. So I'm not trying to sound humble here. Laughter. So, obviously, Sal, super friendly, super kind. If you're looking for something that Sal's gonna say that's gonna be controversial, trust me, I already went over this, and it's it's pretty funny. Here's the most controversial. The last section of the book, Chris Ryle says, well, you've kept me going long enough. I have one more question. The introduction to this book is by the esteemed Len Wein. We work, working with writers, as you did with Len and Roger Stern and Bill Mantlo. At one point, when you were working together, is it a thing where there's any discussion between writer and artist, before the story will take place? Sal says, that happened a lot between Len and myself. I really enjoyed working with Len. I think he was the initial writer on the book when I first started, Sal says. He goes, here again, here's my faulty memory. These are Sal's exact words. Yeah, Len and I would discuss things, and the reason that I think I enjoyed it so much was because, well, Len was always late with the plots, okay? Laughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he would always call me on the phone and give me the plot right over the phone, rather than, type it out.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times, and here again, I don't remember anything specific, but I do remember these instances where he might not have been sure about what to do in a particular sequence, and I would think about it, and I'd say, well, how about we do this, and then that? And he'd say, oh, yeah, that works great. And at that point, and the point that I'm making here is, it's not so much that I gave him a lot of ideas, because I was also one of those guys that believed in letting the writer write and leave the drawing to me. I didn't like to interfere with aspects of the book, but we had a great chemistry, Len and I think it shows in the stories that we did. I know at that particular time, not only because of the character that I was doing, that I enjoyed so much, but also because Len was writing some really fun stuff. And we had this communication that happened between us that was just, well, I don't know if that's the right word. It was almost uncanny. It was like he would figure out things that he needed to do, and I'd figure out things that needed to be done, and it just worked beautifully. It was really healthy, really productive marriage between the two of us. Don't tell him I said so. Okay. So in this book, it collects several issues of Sal's work. Again, that beautiful Joe Rubenstein job. I want to find one more page here because, again, Klaus Janson. And you know what, my buddy. Okay, so here's perfect. Like, you can. This is Sal's underdrawing, but you can see without a question of a doubt, Sal. That is Sal's Doc Samson. That is Sal's Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But Klaus went in there and dropped the deeper shadows under the lip, under the eyes on Hulk. That deep shadow on the neck. He put that deep shadow on more concentrated blacks on Doc Samson's hair. Sal had several great inkers work on his stuff. I'm going to share with you whether it was the Marvel's team up, these different Hulk issues, these Defenders issues, and like I said, my absolute favorite thing are these incredible issues of the Defenders that Klaus inked over Sal.
Yeah, I'm not sure those are my favorite, but I do love those.
And the
I'd say the Cap stuff pops for me.
Show you guys
Captain America.
I remember I'm sitting outside at the table with my buddy and saying, "Do you see it?" And he's like, "Rob, I know you're into this stuff." And so again, that's why I have this stuff in black and white. It's not that it was the only place that I could get it. When I saw this and I saw that I could get the Klaus inks over, look at this incredible figure. That's all Sal. Look at the incredible strength of that figure. The sturdiness, the strength, the power in the thighs, the chest, the arms, the great gesture. But then Sal goes in and gives it that beautiful rendering and that extra style.
Klaus.
But there's, I just thought the two of them made such an incredible combination that I had to have this in black and white so that I could see the line work and some of these faces that this Doctor Strange, several different Doctor Strange faces and Hulk faces. Klaus would just, and I know Klaus is still around. Maybe I can get him to speak about this, in depth. But as I flip through this, I can't recommend getting these more highly because I told you the staging. Look at this Hulk blasting through the wall right there. It looks like he's blasting through at 90 miles an hour. Look at that gesture. That is signature Sal Buscema. Just an incredible, storyteller. The staging, the pacing, It's why I fell in love with his work when I did and the way that I did, and I think so many other people did as well. And so, yeah, I guess it's just throughout here. There is no splash page that I've come across. I thought it had Luke Cage on it, but it that just showcased uh, just how well he could put a group of characters standing next to each other, and then Klaus would come in and just apply those finishes. Oh, here, baby. Look at this. This guy's called the Plant Man, but look at the strength of that figure again as I'm holding up this page, and look at the way Klaus went in there and put that stomach muscle, put all of the under lighting on the arms, on the chest.
Good stuff.
It's just
Good stuff.
incredibly powerful. And then great stuff. My personal favorite, and I think it's because it was written so well. It's one of the last things I remember loving of Sal's when he was on Marvel Team Up. I'm pretty sure this is 1979. There's a 4-part Marvel Team Up. If it's collected, I'm not aware of it. Number 82.
Yeah, everybody mentions
Number
that.
83.
I gotta look at that storyline again.
Number 84. Number 85.
I wasn't into that.
These are all drawn by Sal Buscema, and they're finished by another artist named Steve Leialoha. Steve
I gotta look at
Leialoha
those
was
again.
a terrific artist in his own right. He'd take over penciling and inking. I'm showing you the splash page to Marvel Team Up number 82. He'd take over penciling and inking Spider-Woman for an extended stretch, and he was a legit fan fave. But just as with Klaus and with some others, he would add. I love where Eric Larson used the word flourishes. But I mean, Steve. These are Steve Sal Buscema pencils, but suddenly you were getting the lush finishing lines, which means that Steve is drawing a little of himself onto these pages. Okay. I remember grabbing this. By the way, this is written by Chris Claremont. It is a 4-part super spy tale. Black Widow has amnesia, doesn't know who she is. Takes them on this incredible journey. This issue is absolute an absolute blast. The action. I mean, look at this Spider-Man here on this rooftop. This job is my favorite of all the Sal Buscema jobs. Inked by Steve Leialoha. Again, you get Steve Leialoha brings his own specific flair, his artistry on top of Sal's underdrawing, his figure work, his faces, his storytelling, his staging. But Steve Leialoha had his own very definitive style of drawing. When Steve Leialoha was called in to finish and ink Howard Chaykin when Howard couldn't pencil and ink Star Wars himself, Steve comes on with issue 2, and the book gets even more beautiful. It's because Steve is got this incredible illustration background and is gonna give you incredible light sources, more in-depth shadows, rendering. He's going to change the style of some of the faces. Again, there's no question that's a Sal Buscema page. Look at those gestures. Look at those hits. Look at the force with which some of those figures are being tossed around. This is 1,000% a Sal Buscema.
Dub has a question. Let's read it. We're worshiping Sal Buscema today. Let's see. Dub says, "Do you happen to do Hellboy drawings as well?"
Short answer is I can draw anything that you request. I don't often get requests to draw Hellboy, so a Hellboy drawing would be fun, as I love Hellboy. I love Mike Mignola's work, and I certainly love Hellboy. So the kicker would be, do I have a Hellboy sketch cover? And that's something I don't think I have. I'm not sure they made Hellboy sketch covers, but maybe they did. So we would either have to do that on a different sketch cover or on a 9x12 piece of paper, whatever works for you. But I love Hellboy and Abe. Abe Sapien is such a cool character. My favorite Hellboy story is The Chained Coffin. I thought that was just fantastic. Very much like a fable, like a horror fable. Loved it. Hope you're still here to hear that answer. Let's see. What time do we have? I'll stay till 3-ish. Sure. I'm having a good time here with Rob's episode.
By Steve Lealoa.
And then, of course, I'm always here Thursdays at noon Eastern. That is a given. Also, make sure you're following me here on Whatnot, please. And we'll have some fun little extras going on in March, where I have something called March Sketch Cover Madness, where we revisit um, a whole bunch of sketches that I've done in the last year, and you guys get to vote on your favorite. And the winner of each round goes forward to the next round until finally we have a winner. And we're going to do a black and white version and a color version of the March Cover Madness. So stay tuned for that. That'll be fun. I also make my own comics. I'm a writer as well as an artist. You can find the comics that I've created in my bin. I'm currently working on a series called The New Zodiacs, which is my finest hour as a comic book artist slash writer. Designed the characters, created the characters. It's about 12 folks who can channel the cosmic energies of the zodiac. Each one has different skills. The new Pisces, for example, is a woman named Cricket who can communicate with the dead trapped on Earth. So it's horror slash sci-fi. Great stuff. A lot of fun. The new Aquarius is a teenage hacker who steals from the info rich and gives to the info poor. Currently working on the new Sagittarius, which is turning out to be a lot of fun and not really what I expected it to be, but I'm liking it. I'm riding the wave. I'm riding the creative wave, and let's see how it goes. And New Zodiac Sagittarius will also have backup stories with Cricket, the new Pisces, and a backup story with the Liberator, the new Aquarius. Ideally, with an unlimited budget, I would have 12 books a month out, at least one for each sign of the zodiac. Get in on the ground floor. I've also got prints like this lovely masterpiece right here. Spidey in the middle of a Sharknado. It could happen. Anybody interested in this Wolverine? Maybe I'll do an auction for Wolverine. Let's see. Do I have it set up? Here we go. I just launched the auction. It's for this specific piece. If anybody buys it today, you can watch me finish it right here on the stream. Right now it's a work in progress, but I'm probably about an hour and a half away from finishing it. So if anybody buys it today, I will stick around and finish it right here on the stream. You get to watch me. Also, I'm on YouTube. Joe St. Pierre Art, I believe, on YouTube. I admire a lot of these old school artists who, they were comic book artists because they needed to make a living. It's like it's not something like they were fanboys first, or it seemed like a lot of them were just trying to make a living. So when Sal says he didn't want to take anybody's work away from them, like inkers and stuff. I'm curious what made him make the final choice to ink his own work. Because towards the end of his uh, mainstream career, he was inking his own stuff on Hulk, on Rom, on Spectacular Spider-Man. So I'm curious what made him decide, screw, screw these other guys. I want double my salary, you know.
This is a great cover. Thank you, Palooks. Can I see how the cover came out?
Yeah, sure. It's for you, man. And you take that to your favorite convention and get some other artists to fill in the spaces here.
That'll be a killer. Killer piece. All right, what's Rob got to say here? Talking about Sal. We love Sal.
Is fantastic.
We love
As
Sal.
Black Widow, it's very much, this is the Bourne identity with Black Widow and Nick Fury and Master of. This is my favorite of all the issues. I was a giant Master of Kung Fu fan, and the fact that that Silver Samurai enters the picture, that again, this is some fan favorite stuff, man. I would kill to buy some of this art, if I ever saw it on the open market. I mean, these are just incredible pages and embellishments. And I'm not sure. Again, Sal in that interview, he refused to name anybody he didn't care for. And I'm not sure, because this definitely qualifies as heavy-handed. But this shot alone, look at the weight. This is as good as anything. This finished page is as good as anything John Byrne, George Perez, Jim Starlin, any of the top guys were putting out at the time. This is as good as any Frank Miller Daredevil page. The staging, but Steve Leialoha goes in. I guarantee you, he added these light sources, this extra rendering, um, and there's, again, you get this force with the gestures and the staging and the power of the storytelling with what is undoubtedly a much more lush line work. Steve Leialoha used a lot of brush, and you could just tell in the way that he goes over these lines. Never liked Boomerang more than I liked him here. Again, state of the art Sal Buscema action choreography. But this 4-part story is my favorite Marvel comic uh, ish saga ever. Again, look at that. That is Sal, but the absolute interpretation and application of the line work uh, is got plenty of Steve Leialoha in it. This last issue, which was great, and as a kid, when you grab this and you're like, wait, is Marvel team up with Shang-Chi, with Black Widow, with Nick Fury? All three of them in one. And I opened the credits, and these were all being bought. I always talk about this knockoff of 7-Eleven that we're in the Southland here called U Totem. These are U Totem comics, baby. U Totem. Again, look at that staging. Look at that. You feel like you're miles above the earth. The helicarrier, incredible rendering, and there's Spider-Man going right out. That is the Sal Buscema special. Again, he is still on pencils here. Steve Leialoha is still grabbing the inks. This is as good as anything being offered at the time in 1979. Okay, these guys, I am so thrilled that whoever convinced. I mean, look at that face. Look at that Nick Fury face. That is a beautiful, gorgeous face. I'm just showing all these front pages from, again, 82, 83, 84, and 85. If you can get your hands on these comics, if they're available digitally, I'd grab them. Spider-Man, Black Widow, smashing through the window here. Non-stop action. Chris Claremont wrote an incredible yarn, an incredible story with plenty of layers and mystery as people close to Black Widow try and, bring her out of what happened. And in this issue, you get some of the final pieces and the flashbacks, which are all colored blue on this page. But
thank you for sharing, Bud. Palooks, you're the man. How do I say Palooks? Am I saying it right? Pelucs. Palooks.
Were better than this. You got Viper.
I hope I'm saying it
Black
right.
Widow going at it on top of the helicarrier here. Many times when Neil Adams would ink John Buscema, when George Perez,
just like that, nice.
John Byrne would ink George Perez. When Neil Adams would ink Gil Kane. Anytime artists jam with each other, a capable artist jumps on top of another capable artist. I have been a massive, incredible fan of it. I try and grab those pages. I try and get. I mean, really, Dick Giordano was as good as an accomplished penciler, maybe not as accomplished a storyteller as Neil Adams. But when Dick inked Neil, you were getting this incredible artistic talent on top of this incredible artistic talent. And over the years, I have always sought to collect, especially, you know, I did an entire inking on embellishing, and some of you were shocked that the guy I picked, but it was Dave Cockrum, he of the Giant Size X-Men and X-Men fame, who prior to that was embellishing Jim Starlin, embellishing George Tuska, embellishing Don Heck, some of these older guys, but he would bring.
Cochran was a great inker, especially on himself. Paluk says it's a take on Paluca, which means wig in Spanish. It's a nickname I had when I had long hair. LOL.
I have long hair as well. So can I be a palooka as well? Very funny.
This beautiful line art, and you'd see Dave Cockrum and Don Heck, and Dave Cockrum and Jim Starlin. So I've always liked when the two artists combine in that Marvel team up saga, along with these Hulks. Again, I cannot more highly recommend these Hulks. The Defenders.
He didn't mention the Marvel 2-in-1s though. Those are my favorites.
Because later, Sal went in 1985. He started helping out Walt Simonson with issues of Thor.
That's right. He did Thor too. I never read those.
He eventually kind of took over Thor for a while, following Walt. Walt would write it. Sal would draw it. Sal started changing his inking style. That's the inking style and the finishes that he was bringing you on Spectacular Spider-Man. He really had a great flair with his line work, and he developed. He started really early on as an inker. He was inking Barry Windsor Smith Conan comics.
That's right too.
And then became his own, powerful penciler. But he would go back and forth. But one of the funnest.
Yeah, he was a penciler by the time he was inking Barry. And what makes my instinct is that Barry was slow, especially in the beginning of his career, and they would bring in Sal because he was fast. That is my instinct. I have no. Whoops! I drew that stripe right across his thumb. Whoops! I have no personal experience with early issues of Conan, but I have heard that Barry was notoriously slow, as you can see in the early issues of Conan the Barbarian. There are a few fill-ins. So my instinct is that Sal was incredibly fast as well as good, and he could make up the schedule that Barry was eating up.
Really special and rich is that when Eric Larson did the Defenders in early 2000s, I think this is 2001, 2002. But Sal Buscema inked this. As he said, he inked him, and this was so fun to watch. And I'm like, wow. So right here, this is Eric Larson pencils with Sal Buscema on inks. Sal Buscema ended the last 20 years of his life providing all manner of inks and finishes on pencilers that he could put his particular brand of polish. Again, the same way that people embellished and finished him, he would end up being an embellisher and finisher of others. And these inks over Eric Larson are spectacular. Again, you're going, one legend is inking another legend. I mean, you're getting Eric Larson doing the Hulk, inked by a guy who did a decade worth of the Hulk. And it looks great. I'm holding up Defenders issue 11. It's there's a great splash page here. Eric Larson on pencils, Sal Buscema on inks. I want to see if Sal is listed as inker or embellisher here. Go to the credits page. Let's see, it's on the double pager. I'm looking at the first page, and do we give credit at the end? Here it is at the end. Sal Buscema inks. Sal Buscema inks, right there. Last page credit. But so it's really great that Eric, was able to combine and have Sal inking, because you get again a new brand of storytelling and storyteller with Eric Larson and his dynamics, and then Sal laying down the finishes. So Sal, I started over an hour telling you, he is a pillar of Marvel Comics. He is the fourth leg of a table that if you take him away, that table becomes wobbly, because he provided that much work. 10 years on the Hulk. I'm not sure there's anybody in the modern age, and you can say Eric Larson has been doing Savage Dragon for 30 years. Kudos to him. He owns it. He produces it. He's done every issue. But for a mainstream title to do 10 years on a comic book in the modern era is just unheard of. And to do as many, I want to say that Sal did at least 50 to 60 issues of ROM. And towards the end, he was being inked by even more heavy-handed inkers. I didn't enjoy it as much. I stopped seeing Sal when there was an inking duo named Aiken and Garvey. And people who love Aiken and Garvey love them the most. I felt it really took away from Sal. Maybe he was just doing breakdowns at the time. When you find those and Google those Secret Wars 2 pages and look at them, you'll see exactly. I don't believe they're full pencils, but I believe those are tight breakdowns, and everything is there. And this, the way I started it, get those pages. You own every character on there, Marvel. You own that art because you paid for it. Publish it.
Hell yeah, brother. eBay had 3 copies of Spider-Man 2099. One second. Ainge has a comment. Ainge says eBay had 3 copies of Spidey 2099 special for $6. I picked them up, minty copies. We'll send a couple to you to sign and remark. Awesome. Good for you, man.
I imagine they're fairly easy to find,
but I don't honestly know what the print runs would be. Also bought Spider-Man 2099. You mean 2099 Unlimited number 9? Great pencils.
2099 Unlimited number 9 is the first gig I ever did for Marvel Comics, and it showed up. I guess it was an inventory issue, and then showed up in a later issue of 2099 Unlimited. The Vlad story, that's probably my favorite Spider-Man 2099 story. It happens to be the first one, too. And it kind of goes downhill from there. Like every subsequent issue, I thought was less interesting to draw. I'm not sure why. That's my memory. I could be wrong too. But I do have fond memories of Vlad the Impaler. And there's an excitement too. I mean, it was working for Marvel. That was a goal of mine since I was 10. I wanted to draw Spidey. I wanted to draw Peter Parker Spider-Man since I was 10 years old. So there's that sense when I got my first gig at Marvel that I really wanted to knock the bottom out of it. I really wanted to impress various people there. And so I had a lot of energy for it. And so I can see that being a favorite, at least in my memory. And then same with the Man Spider story. I thought it was a cool story. It was a great story to work with. And there was a lot of room for me to be me. And so I remember I have fond memories of that as well. And then I remember Joey calling me up and saying, "You're the new artist of Spider-Man 2099." I'm like, "Holy shit, that's so cool." And then the plots that I got, they were, let's say, they were very light for Spider-Man in costume. But they were also fun to work on.
All right, back to Rob. Oh, what do we got here? Paluk says, "Who's your favorite character to draw?"
Besides my own, it's probably Spider-Man. I just found it recently. I found my very first. Damn! I got to erase that. I found my very first rejection letter that came from Marvel when I was 10 years old. I'll have to break it out. Maybe the next maybe tomorrow. Um, I've been wanting to draw Spider-Man 29 or Spider-Man Peter Parker since I was 10 years old. I had my first rejection letter, which was a result of me collecting some of my favorite drawings, folding them up, sticking them in an envelope, and sending them to Marvel Comics, fully expecting a note in the mail saying, "Can you please draw Spider-Man for us?" And so I got a rejection letter. I was 10. I was very disappointed. Um, but it didn't stop me. I just kept going and going and going until I finally drew Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man. He's my favorite. But I honestly think my best work is the new Zodiac stuff. Um, Perhaps some of you can weigh in who have read a lot of my stuff. I think my storytelling is better on New Zodiacs. I think my drawing is better. Technical drawing is better. I think my action art is better. The only thing I don't have with New Zodiacs is the recognizability. Like a lot of people are familiar with Spider-Man. They have an emotional connection to Spider-Man, if it's through the movies or the comics or cartoons or toys or whatever. There's an emotional connection there to Spider-Man that I can't compete with because my characters are fresh. We have no cartoons or movies with these characters, and they're fairly new, less than 10 years old. So um, there's a whole, there are multiple generations of people who grew up with Spider-Man. So I can understand if some folks are connected to my Spider-Man work more than New Zodiacs, but uh, I'm pretty confident that New Zodiacs is my best stuff.
Super glad you never stopped. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out.
Yep. Well, as long as I'm here on Whatnot, you will have a bin that's full of New Zodiacs comics. So you can pick your price point. If you want something that's mainstream comic book store, it's only $10 for a signed copy. We also have more rare variants. There's some, the B cover, which is all black, is limited to 250 copies. So we're satisfying the collectors out there who like rare variants. And then there's one that's even more rare. That's um, the D cover for Liberator and the C cover for Pisces. And those, there's only 100 of those printed. But I try to have something for everybody's price point. Depends on what you want to sell or how much you want to spend, rather. If you want to spend $10, I got you covered. If you want something a little more boutique, I got you covered. If you want original piece of art, I got you covered. This is almost done.
I only started getting into comics about 2 years ago.
What made you start getting into it?
Palooka, curious. Did you see the new trailer for the new Spider-Man movie coming out in December? Scorpion and Punisher are
In it. I haven't seen the trailer. Maybe we should watch that now. But I did see a photo of Scorpion, and I think he looks awesome. And the Punisher has a beard and a big mop of hair. I'm not sure of that, but I thought the Scorpion looked great. What are your thoughts, Ange?
Let's finish Rob. Ainge says, can't wait to see it. Looks like it's going to be action packed.
Very cool.
We'll watch the trailer. Let's finish Rob. We're about 10 minutes away from finishing Rob.
We're worshiping Sal Buscema today, one of my favorite artists, bar none.
We go crazy over it. You have an unpublished issue of Secret Wars #2, #1. Sal Buscema was a pillar when you combine his output with his brothers.
Single brother.
I mean, that's two legs of the table. Okay, one of those. Let's say Sal. Let's say Kirby. Let's say Buscema, and then the other leg is everybody else. The fourth leg holding up the table is everybody else. A little Byrne, a little Perez, a little everybody else. Sal, Kirby, Buscema. I would identify those as the three legs. Three important legs of the very sturdy table that is Marvel comic book. And we're talking thick oak legs of this very heavy table. You want to add more legs? Let's make it a 6-leg table. Whatever you need. Sal's one of those legs. Rest in peace, Sal. Thank you for my childhood. I never met you, but I knew you my whole life. Brilliantly written by Eric Larson. I think he speaks for all of us. Grab a Sal Buscema book. Enjoy it. He was one of one. The speed was something serious. Happy to have shared this excerpt, this opening to the book by Len Wein, and just tried to maybe bring some stuff to the table that maybe you wouldn't just naturally fall into, and celebrating a titan, a guy who brought so much joy to all of us. I truly do regret never meeting him, never encountering him, never sharing a word. But he touched me, and his comic books raised me. All those Marvel team ups, this banged up Marvel team up, the I mean, I love the Sons of the Tiger, and Sal, that's his cover. He didn't do as many covers early on. Look at the power of those figures.
Actually did
Look
covers.
I went in the backyard. I played these guys. I was each one of these badass cats. A couple years back, 2 years back, in an art show, this splash page was in a portfolio. I hesitated when I came back for it. It was gone. I rue the day that I didn't grab this on the spot. That's a special page. Sal Buscema, we toast you. Thank you for all that you brought to.
We love you, Sal. You're the best.
How much you enriched our
The best.
We will miss you. We celebrate you, and we thank you, guys. I thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for every issue, every episode of the show that you join up. that you chat up, that you share. Your enthusiasm carries the show. We're seeing it as our numbers continue to grow.
Nobody drew kinetic, violent, superhero action
iHeart Radio. You've done that. You fueled this show.
better than Sal Buscema.
I read your reviews. I read your comments on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify. I am so grateful for you as an audience. And I just want to thank you. And I'm going to keep working hard to expand this show and to keep bringing the people who make the comics, who made the great comics. Your reaction to the Wolves Portacio and the Jim Valentino shows was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. Guys, I've got invites out there to a lot of people. When schedules clear up, when opportunities arise, we'll keep bringing you some great interviews. I had a pretty big guy in comic books call me last week and said, "Who's next?" I was very flattered. I was very flattered. What flatters me is you guys. Thank you for listening. When I am not here doing this show with you, I am all over social media. You guys know that I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. Blue check mark signifies it is truly,
fuck X.
ridiculously, legitimately. It's me. I'm reading your replies, your comments. I'm commenting back at you. One thing I'm noticing across all social media is the kids of the MCU have grown up and they are finding out just exactly how much they do not know. I say that in the kindest possible manner. My comment to many of them all over again and again is read comic books. Some of these people don't know how powerful Sue Storm is, how juiced up she got in the 80s, how powerful her force fields are. People don't understand the length and power of these characters. They don't understand that the X-Men had a 10-year run that is unparalleled in comics because they think of the X-Men only as they do the worst of the X-Men movies. There are more good movies. I'm going to tell you right now, X2, First X-Men, X2, Days of Future Past.
X2 Logan, is a piece of shit.
Throw the Wolverine in there, okay? I'm going to go First Class, okay? Then I'm going to go the two Deadpool movies. So that's 8 really good Fox movies. Maybe there's 5 that aren't so good, okay? But all they know of the X-Men is that they equate it with the lesser X-Men films, not even the comic books. They don't know Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, Paul Smith from Adam. No matter how much I talk about them, the movies is where they got their education about these characters. It's sad because they don't know the true struggles, the soap opera, the enjoyment, the action, the adventure that we all were taking on.
Don't get me started on X2.
As I get older, I can see
piece of garbage.
Time which I will be gone from social media. I will just go dark because I just can't take it. But right now, I'm there and I'm suffering with all the rest of you. I am at Robert Liefeld on X. Blue check mark tells you it's really me. On Instagram, X. I'm Rob Liefeld. So many of you are really enjoying the different material that we're giving you. We're just having fun. Me and my.
Is that podcast on YouTube? Yes, it is. It's called. You got to be careful because there's another Robservations on YouTube, but this one is just you just do a search for Rob Liefeld, and it'll pop up. Seriously, fuck X. We love Sal. That is our
take home for today. We love Sal Buscema. And you don't get me started on X2. Oh, but X2 was so great. Yeah, it was so great. Yeah, that scene in the White House with Nightcrawler. Yeah, that scene was great. And what else? Nothing. Nothing else. The rest of it was an insult to my intelligence. And it watches like people who don't know how to write stories. And if you listen to the commentary on X2, I will be proven out because they say, we were writing this as we were filming it. So we weren't sure what was going to happen. Well, that's pretty clear. Anybody who's trying to pay attention to that movie as a story is going to be having trouble. So my experience is borne out by the writers of the movie in their own commentary. They didn't know what they were doing. just have connections with Bryan Singer, buddies with Bryan Singer, and that's how you make money in movies, folks, or anywhere really. Just be buddies with somebody. I do things the hard way. I focus on doing quality work, and it gets me work sometimes. Other times, it's who I know. Oh yeah, look at this. Nice. It's Wolverine's all splattered. Oh, let's watch the can we watch the Spider-Man trailer and not get flagged by YouTube? What do I look up? Spider-Man Homeboy? Spider-Man trailer. All the titles have home in them, right? Brand new day. Brand new home day. Spider-Man brand new day. Tom Holland new suit revealed. No, I want the trailer. First trailer. Spider-Man brand new day. First trailer. Let's see.
Another morning to savor the crunchy nooks and cranny splendor of a Thomas's English muffin.
Tom, which is... Everyone thinks the city is loud. But the real changes happen when no one's watching.
If you're hearing my name, you're already late. Some men wear masks to feel important.
I used to think stopping crime meant stopping the worst guy in the room.
You took money that wasn't yours.
You don't have to work for him. Turns out it just makes things feel smaller.
The city follows whoever moves forward without hesitation.
It must not be the right trailer because I don't see any. I don't see any Scorpion. Tombstone looks cool. Spider-Man brand new day first trailer.
Everyone thinks starting over is easy. But when no one remembers you, you learn what alone really means.
And I heard a rumor. You know who he is.
Every choice has a cost.
That's Scorpion.
I don't remember what I did.
You're not the only one hiding.
Where did I get these trailers from? What was that? Just a bunch of clips. Let's see. Cool. Palooka getting back to work. Get your wig ass getting back to work. All right. I'm gonna probably finish this and then blow out. We'll run it one more time. How about that? Let's see if anybody wants it. Otherwise, this is coming with me to Northeast Comic Con. That's my next show, which is March 13th, 14th, and 15th, I believe. Which is in Boxborough, Mass. Almost done. Almost done. We need a signature in there somewhere. So yeah, we got about 15 minutes left. Let's do an auction. Auction is for this guy right here. It's about 5 minutes away from getting done. 10 minutes tops. Gonna finish up the shadows on his thumb. And we gotta sign it. And that's it. Wow, where do I sign this? I'm stuck. Maybe let's see. How about across? I'll do it across these claws. I was gonna do it across these claws, but they're way too center, way too in the right in the middle. So we don't want to distract people with signatures. There you go. Anybody interested in this? Grab them now. $150. That's a steal, I tell you. A steal. It's been 5 minutes already. Time flies, I'll tell you. Cool. All right. Any other questions while we sign off for the day? Let's see. Scary Eye Blige joined. Cool. Okay. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for sure at 12 noon Eastern time. And still got another shot at buying one of these before the Northeast Comic Con. All right. So I hope you guys have a great evening. See you tomorrow, Thursday at noon. Have a good one.